I'd like to call the work session to order for April 14th, 2025. Will the city clerk roll call? Okay, thank you. We have one item on the agenda tonight. I would like to remind council that staff will be pausing every so often to answer any questions. First item is the city manager's recommended fiscal year 2026 annual budget and fiscal year 2026-2030 capital improvement plan. City manager Wynette Reed will kick it off.
Good afternoon and welcome to our budget meeting, tentative budget coming up. We are pleased today to be presenting the fiscal 2026 recommended budget. As I've mentioned to many of you already, I'm really excited about this year's budget. It's with your guidance, the help with the strategic plan, leading a lot of our conversations, our conservative financial policies, and we believe we've addressed many of the needs of our growing city while continuing to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. So I am going to keep this short. We appreciate all the conversation that can take place today in order to take this to the tentative budget. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan and Jared, but first I will let you know there are snacks in the back there. There are healthy snacks, vegetables, fruit. I know, we had to be a little bit healthy. So, and then also on your desk there is some information on the upcoming elections, some talking points and speaking points for your information. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Jared and Ryan.
Well, before you turn it over, a question right before we started. Is each one of the items on the ballot going to be, it's not one big lump, it's going to be all individuals?
All individual, yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Ryan Biddle, and I'm the Finance Manager of Budget and Research here at the City of Goodyear. Today, we're going to walk through the fiscal year 2026 City Manager's recommended budget, which is programmed at $915 million roughly. As our budget work sessions typically go, there's a few predefined stopping points for questions. However, just like many of my budget presentations, if you have a question, don't have to wait for the stopping points. Please feel free to chime in. We have plenty of support here. Before I dive in, as I do every year, I just want to publicly thank everybody involved, the City Manager's office, everybody around this table, directors behind me, staff entering budget requests into our budget system, my budget staff. I mean, this is a huge undertaking for the city every single year. Like Wynette said, to make sure that we help maintain and raise the quality of life for our residents, and we believe that we've put together a wonderful budget this year. All right, so here's our agenda for the day. Background and previous actions. This is more so for the public to make sure everybody understands how we got to this point in the process, because there's a lot that's went on behind the scenes. The next piece will be our 5-year forecast and funding assumptions. This is kind of the check the box to make sure we're finance policy compliant, as well as let you know about some of the assumptions, because any forecast is only as good as the assumptions behind it. But we're going to try to get to the supplemental and the capital improvement program part of the presentation, because that's where we're going to spend most of the time. Our supplementals, that's where new things come in, new FTEs, programs, higher levels of service. Those are the discussions that we will have. And then our capital improvement program, that's where the majority of the one-time expenditures in our budget get programmed every single year. All right, so looking at the budget process timeline, in the budget world, this is truly a 365-day-a-year process. But for most of the staff in the city, it starts back in November when we first start getting meetings together. We talk with CMO about what type of requests we expect to see. We talk through those requests, do a first level of vetting there. In December, we open up our budgeting software system. Those requests get entered into the software. Our budget team asks questions. We're gathering supporting information. January, we continue to review those and start reporting out to the city manager's office. That leads us up to February, where we present to council. That's the first major touch point, where we do a 5-year general fund forecast presentation, typically geared towards looking at all the revenues in the city, because that sets what we have available. At the same time, while all this is going on, we're working through the expenditure side of things, which is what our conversation today is primarily related to, leading up to April, where we're at with our city manager's recommended budget presentation. From there, it's statutory requirements, May for tentative budget adoption, and then June for final budget adoption. So when we met in February, we covered all kinds of things. Amongst those is the economy, because the economy kind of sets the stage for how we feel like we project revenues to come in the upcoming fiscal year. So we had check marks, green check marks for both the United States, Arizona, and Goodyear. If we were to have this presentation today, it would probably still be green, but we have a little bit more volatility, a little bit more uncertainty if you've been watching the news in the past couple of days. That's mostly driven by these risks, which we also talked about in February. Geopolitical, so the wars abroad, tariffs, right? That's the big thing in the news these days. How is that going to impact what we do on a daily basis? Domestic, as it relates to immigration policy and things like that. How will that impact our workforce potentially? And then always the state of Arizona legislation. As they are about to adopt their budget at the state, how could anything that they do impact us as a city? All of those things we're always keeping in the back of our mind when we put together our forecasts. So this is the exact slide we showed in February. The $208 million in blue, that's what we dove into. That's everything in the general fund ongoing revenues of what we projected to have coming in. I like showing this slide because you can see it from the historicals from fiscal year 20 to 24, 16% average year over year. That's unprecedented. That's what led us to becoming the 9th fastest growing city in the United States. But you can see on a forward-looking basis, we're only projecting about 3.5% growth. That's a budget theme. That's our conservative forecasting that we have a staple within our financial department here at the city. So we went into detail in February on all these buckets. These are the major buckets of revenue for the general fund. Construction, non-construction sales tax being the big one, over half of our general fund revenues there. Commercial and utilities in the subcategories, we talked about those. Those are some of the big ones that were leading the way. We went into state shared, so urban revenue sharing, that's income taxes from the state level. State sales tax, vehicle license tax, all these state shared revenues that we get a piece of the pie for. We went through primary property tax, driven by appreciation of our property here in Goodyear, and then new construction within the city. We also talked about development-related revenue, anything with the development continuum that our development services department touches. Franchise fees, which are agreements with utility providers, kind of a revenue sharing that we have for the growth that we see. And then construction sales tax. The important thing to note on construction sales tax was this was the first time in several years where we did not increase the ongoing amount for construction sales tax. It's supposed to represent the minimum level of activity we expect to see in construction, and for that reason, we didn't feel comfortable increasing it this year. That other bucket literally compromises everything else in the general fund: parks and rec revenue, court-related revenue, investment income, ASTA money, all those things fall in that other bucket. But we talked about all those in February. We also shared with council some of the major themes for the budget process. So for the members of the public who might be listening or watching this after the fact, our strategic plan will always be a high priority, probably the #1 priority as part of our budget process. Our strategic plan is updated annually with collaboration between council and the city manager's office, and it acts as a roadmap where we identify priorities over the next several years, basically. And many of these priorities have financial requirements associated with them. So as part of the budget, these priorities get preferential treatment, and that creates a direct link between our vision for the future of the city and where our dollars go in the budget. We also look at maintaining current levels of service. So while we want to continue to add and expand offerings as money allows, we want to make sure that we don't do that at the detriment of the current services that we provide to our citizens. Ongoing versus one-time was a topic of discussion last year, so it's a focal point this year as well. That just means we want to make sure that we are, our ongoing expenditures are supported by ongoing stable sources of revenue, and do all of that while continuing to maintain that conservative level of forecasting. So sticking in February, recapping again, we showed this slide. Again, for the purposes of the public, these were items that last year were funded with one-time dollars that need to be funded with ongoing money. That has been done and is part of the starting point for this budget when we talk about what we have available. So all those are already in our starting point. And we went through all that presentation, talked for a couple hours just to literally get to this slide in February. This slide shows our 5-year general fund forecast for ongoing sources and uses. And that gap there was about $5.5 million. So when we met in February, we said we think we'll have roughly $5.5 million available to do new things for new ongoing requests as part of the budget process. So that kind of gets us up to date to where we are today. Now here's that same graph again, but now it's been updated based on things that have changed. Just because we show numbers to council doesn't mean the city stops operating. So that was 208 million in February. It's now 210.8 million. You can still see the same level of conservatism in our future years as well. So how did we pick up an additional $2.8 million between February and now? Well, these were the three main drivers of that. So we had a couple additional months of sales tax data that came in. So as we replace conservative forecasting levels with actuals that come in higher, the difference between that we're able to use for additional ongoing money. So we picked up about $1.7 million there. On the property tax side, literally about a week after we met, the county gave us our abstract. We were able to look at the actual numbers, and we picked up money. Our property valuations were mostly in line with what we got from the county, but we really picked up on the new construction side. So we got about $600,000 there that we could add to our ongoing money available for 26. And last but not least, development services revenue. This is just making sure that we maintain our cost recovery and match ongoing revenues to ongoing expenditures. But those are the changes from the last time that we chatted. So here's a quick reconciliation then. So we started this whole process and we thought it was going to be a tight year for a lot of cities. It is a very tight year. Some of that has to do with the loss of residential rental that went into effect this year. So when we started the budget process, it looked kind of bleak, but per a work session with council a couple months ago, Jared was sitting probably right in the seat where I'm at, and we talked about using one-time money to call a portion of our ballpark debt. So that's basically paying it off early. So that freed up about $5 million in ongoing money for this year's budget. And that's what got us to the $5.5 million when we chatted in February. So again, going forward from there, one change I want to make sure that is clear in the way that we forecast and budget is this CIP allocation of project management personnel. This is something that a lot of cities do. It's a financing mechanism that basically says we have all these FTEs that manage CIP projects. We're taking the cost of their salaries and allocating those to the projects that they manage. So it frees up ongoing money and allocates it to one-time CIP projects. So we picked up about $1 million there. The revenue updates, that's what we just talked about, the sales tax, property tax, and development services on the previous slide. And then last but not least here, expenditures. In February when we chat, we're still kind of fine-tuning everything, so we've got everything nailed down now. So we were able to pick up about $1.5 million, and that gets us to around $8 million available in this year's budget. That's about twice as much as we had available last year for perspective. Yes, Mayor.
Real quick, as a result of the callable bond debt, that how much bond is actually debt is left once that gets paid off?
I don't know the outstanding amount. I know we have in our 5-year forecast program to pay off the remainder of that, which will free up another couple $1 million next year. So it'll be completely exhausted at the end of fiscal year 27.
And the 27th, all of it will be paid off?
Correct.
And that's important to note that we're using, because that frees up general fund operating revenue, which has been being used to pay the debt service. So,
correct.
Thank you.
Yes, that is a large benefit of being conservative. We've got some one-time money that we're able to use for situations just as this, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So here's our updated chart of ongoing money and ongoing uses. So the general fund is programmed at about $385 million with transfers in there. The ongoing portion is about $221 million, and that's what you're seeing on the slide in front of you. You can see we've matched ongoing revenues and expenditures. So this slide basically proves out and checks the box as part of our financial policy that we can do everything that we are recommending today and still make sure we have enough money in the future to cover those expenditures. You might notice there's a little bit of a gap between 27 and 28 that closes a little bit. So again, as part of our financial policy, we're always looking ahead for the operational impacts of large CIP projects. So for example, a fire station, if there's one-time dollars associated with that, but after we build the fire station, we need to staff it. So we set aside money for those personnel to make sure that we can do what we need to do. That's what that gap is. There's several big CIP projects that those dollars are related to that we've set aside. So here's a more detailed breakdown of the general fund. For those not familiar, they might be asking, why do we go into so much detail on the general fund? That's because that's where this group here at the table, city leadership has the ability to dictate how we utilize the available resources, as opposed to other restricted funding places at our city. This we really have full autonomy over. So if you look at the ongoing side of things, revenue we've talked about. Base budget, when you think of base budget, that's personnel. Primarily 75% of that is personnel costs of that $177 million. Then we have the ongoing supplementals, which we'll get to here in just a little bit. That's the new stuff. Transfers out, that relates to all of our subsidies that we have at the city. So ballpark, HERF, transit, ambulance, our asset management funds. We make sure that those are able to operate with ongoing money. And then the contingency, that's mostly the ongoing CIP set aside that we just talked about. Then on the one-time side of things, we have a beginning balance. The revenue is primarily related to our construction sales tax, the one-time portion of that. We do have a base budget side on the one-time. I don't want to get you confused, but those are other one-time set-asides. It also includes our ECDEV, Economic Opportunity Fund, in case we have some money that we want to use to promote a different business coming into town or something like that. And then we also have one-time supplementals, capital improvement projects. You can see the big number, which we'll dive into again in a little bit. Transfers out to support the same programs, but just the one-time side of those same programs. And then our policy reserve to make sure we're financially compliant. Primarily make sure we're setting aside 15% of ongoing revenues as like a rainy day fund in case the economy weren't to be as continue as well as it has been. All right, so on this slide, we're talking about existing staff. So not future staff, but existing staff. So what is impacting existing staff that we have? So in this recommended budget, we're proposing a 5% market adjustment for non-MOU employees. So that moves the whole range versus a merit, which would move people up within the range. Per council adoption about a week or two ago, we have the police and fire MOUs. So we've just shown some of the highlights. There's a lot more detail that goes behind those MOUs, but those are the highlights. Are 10% market adjustment for police. They get their 5% step. Fire gets a 3% market and a 5% step. So those are all per agreed and adopted MOU negotiations. And then on the retiree healthcare side, this is the second year we've had our retiree healthcare. So each year we're setting aside $3.5 million. That's to include both the ongoing portion, so the premiums of that, subsidized by the current staff, and then the paying down the unfunded liability portion. And then last but not least, again, for our current staff, the health trust fund that we manage, those are 7.5% increases, just costs of healthcare continue to go up, so that's making sure we can continue to fund that program.
Good, quick question for you. Is there a slide later on that's going to show the impact on the employees by what they had last year versus what they get this year on their health insurance? Any increase?
There is not a slide on it, but based on for those that aren't familiar with it, they might say, oh, if I'm a non-represented employee, I'm getting 5%, but I'm losing 7.5%, so I'm coming out behind. That's not actually the case. The 7.5% is a percentage of a percentage. So our employees will all come out better off, regardless of if they're on our health care and if they fall in the MOU or non-MOU category. So there is not a slide to answer that, but we can probably throw some numbers together or bring that back a tentative if you think that's relevant.
Can you? Because I'm sure the employees are going to want to know what their increase to their health premiums are going to be. So I think that's real important. So if you could put together something for us, that would be nice.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. All right, so we will get to the recommendations, but assuming the recommendations get approved, this is the breakdown of where the new staff members will be sitting. So to put it in perspective, last year we, again, had about half the money available. We had about half the FTEs that we added. We added around 36, 37 FTEs last year. So 69.5, that's kind of in line. Fiscal year 21, we were at 70. 22, we were at 86. I know that was a level that council didn't necessarily feel comfortable ever going up there that high again. 23, we were at 67. So this is right in line with several of the past years as far as FTE additions.
Got a question?
Yes.
Is this lower than what you originally presented to us? Was it in the 70s earlier?
This was the same number, yeah, that we presented in the one-on-ones, yeah.
And then going back on the slide before with the representation, we haven't done anything yet with non-represented employees, that 5%. Is that just a placeholder? What you think?
That's already been factored into the starting point, and that's the recommendation as part of the budget.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yeah, 'cause we haven't talked about that yet. officially, so, okay, you're just putting it in there for now to budget. Okay, just want to clarify, thank you.
I will just want to point out as well on this slide, if you look at police, fire, and court, there's a big emphasis on public safety in this budget. This is the largest addition to our public safety staff that we've had. I was starting to dust off old budget books from the archive, got back past fiscal year 20 and couldn't find one. I stopped looking at that point. So there's definitely a very heavy emphasis of public safety in this budget.
But so note that the 69 and .52, I want to see what a 0.52 person looks like. But anyway, that's about 6.5, yeah, about six and a half, somewhere around there, percentage of overall increase in personnel?
Roughly, yes.
Okay.
Yep. So after the dust settles, this is what the breakdown would look like between the different departments. So you can see public safety would have 484. You can see what a .83 would look like as well. But that increase of 45.4%, that's an increase of about 1.5%. So the makeup of our staff is continuing to shift more to be public safety heavy, if that makes sense, which I think all of us agree is a good thing. But this is where we would land if we go forward with the recommendations. And then last but not least, this is just a different way of looking at the supplementals before we dive into them here in a slide or two. By general fund subsidized, enterprise, the positions. Nothing new that we haven't already looked at, just a different way of looking at it. So that gets us to the supplemental section. That's kind of a catch-up of where we were at and what we want. Yes, Councilmember Kano.
When we look at slide 19 about the information from the MOU, there was something that had come up after we voted on it that I don't recall ever being discussed in our debriefings or presentation, and that specifically regards to the fire MOU and the provision to have a staff member work for 30 days to kind of verify that the payroll transactions are correct. Can somebody elaborate on that?
So there was provision, and I'll try to answer that, but I will maybe ask Lyman if I misspeak, but that provision was actually in the prior MOU as well, that they do have an allotment of hours to support the implementation. As we worked through implementation, there were a lot of items specific to just the different rules and the changes, implementation across our systems, making sure that those are implemented accurately. And so that's where that provision came from, but that was in the prior MOU as well.
Okay, so we take a highly trained technical person off their work truck to do essentially payroll type of work. And from what I understand, we do not do any provision for police. Is that true?
I will have to go back and verify that. I'll go back and verify
All right.
if police had a similar provision in theirs.
According to the union president, they do not. They just try to catch it when they can.
Okay.
So, all right, well, that might be a basis for further conversation as we talk about budget. Thank you.
Anything else? Everybody okay so far? Continue.
All right, so that gets us to the supplemental recommendation section of the presentation. So this is where we'll go department by department. On the slides in front of you, you'll see the majority, maybe not all, but most of the supplemental recommendations. But I would direct you to page 147 on your budget book for council if you'd like to follow along with us, and that shows them. We'll go department by department. You can see both the recommendations that we do have as well as those that were not being funded. And we can start off with an easy one. So we put the departments on here regardless of if there were recommendations or requests or not. So mayor and council is the first department. As you can see, there's no supplemental requests, no changes, and you can see the general fund budget. But this is the general structure that you'll see for each department. So now the city manager's office, the internal auditing program. So this is per direction from council from previous work sessions to hire an internal auditor. We actually have dollars in the budget to hire that person to get them through the year, and this is the ongoing dollars to make sure that person stays on staff. We have consultant services. So this is like, think it's kind of like a pilot. We do have ongoing money already that we have, but this is adding to the ongoing money, particularly so we could maybe see how some federal lobbying. We currently use the money we have for state lobbying. If that makes sense, you'll see a future request come for ongoing dollars, but we thought that might be a good avenue to explore this year. The Workforce Development Program Partnership. This is a partnership with Maricopa County Human Services. And then we basically help residents try to find jobs. They host job fairs, and then we coordinate employers in the city to go be at those job fairs, and we see who we can help get into the workforce. The Goodyear Care Community Navigator Program. This is actually converting a previous pilot. We use COVID response money for this into a full-time FTE. So this has been performed previously through Chicanos por la Casa, that contract, but we're wanting to bring this person in-house moving forward. Increasing the Fire Country Partnership sponsorship. So this is related to Luke Air Force Base in our sponsorship level. So the addition of $10,000 will get us more in line with a lot of our West Valley peer cities. And then last but not least, host a Marvin Andrews Fellow. So this is in partnership with ASU, and it brings an intern who is managed by the city manager's office, essentially, who is going to school for public administration typically, and it's something that a lot of other cities have done. We last hosted a Marvin Andrews Scholar in 2022, so it's probably another pilot program that we're going to try out and see if it's something we want to do on a regular basis. Does anybody have any questions with these requests?
FTEs are going to go up one in the city manager's office, if I read this correctly?
So the navigator position, it's being requested in the city manager's office, but it's actually going to be part of neighborhood services, and it's going to sit in parks after it's funded.
Okay, so what's the FTE change in the city manager's budget from currently to?
So there is no change.
No change, okay.
That 18, the number of FTEs that you'll see on each slide is, assuming the recommendations go forward, this is what it will be after the fact. But yes, there's no change for
No change,
city
okay.
manager's office.
Gotcha. Did you have something? No? Go ahead.
Legal, so no supplemental requests, another easy one. Municipal court. So we are recommending 2 security guards. This came per an internal audit done by PD. We're also recommending adding a deputy court administrator to help Crystal out and to comply with a lot of the Supreme Court initiatives that we have. And then we are also recommending a court specialist. So this is more of a person on the phones, customer service type role. And this position was currently funded with one-time dollars last year. We've seen that there is a need for an ongoing basis, so we're asking for ongoing money for it this year.
One other item on the 2 security guard FTEs, one of those will be paid for with the general fund, and the second one will be paid for with the court enhancement fund, is the intention in the next budget.
Yes, and we have enough money in the court enhancement fund to pay for that position for 10 years if we needed to. We'd like to get it into the general fund at some point, but that was a way that we were strategic in trying to help the departments get, what they need, while also being cognizant of how much money we have available, yes.
Okay.
City clerk's office, no recommendations. Finance. So 1 senior procurement officer. We currently have 4 FTEs, but this will assist our current manager with some of the more complex procurements that we do to allow them to properly manage versus having to be more so in the weeds doing a lot of the day-to-day work. We also have a pilot program for contracting mailroom services. Currently, that's very much so an all-hands-on-deck initiative, so whoever's got free time, they kind of go down there. We send some payroll staff and people to do it. So this is going to contract with a third party and see if we get the customer service level that we desire. If we do, we'll move forward. If not, we'll go back to the drawing board. And then last but not least, Councilmember Cano, did you have a question? Sorry.
on, for finance, so can you tell me how many people in your section, Jared, work on payroll?
Absolutely. So we have an accounts payable payroll supervisor, we have a payroll analyst, and we have a senior, well, it's now actually a payroll specialist position, so we have 3 positions.
Three plus a supervisor?
2 plus the supervisor.
Oh, 2 plus a supervisor, okay, and then there's nothing additional in your budget?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
The last item listed on here was a sales tax auditing contract. So not to be confused with the internal auditor, this person, or it's actually a contract that we use for a third party that looks at the sales tax specifically and only the sales tax coming into the city to make sure that we are collecting what we should collect. And they can work with ADOR in case there's any issues of compliance that we can bring in additional money that we should be collecting. That position currently, it's about $50,000 a year. We brought in $67,000 year to date, so it's paid for itself, and we expect that to continue each year. Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, question on, I know we have multiples, we got, what, GY, GY1, GY2. Is that gonna be part of the job of that contractor? Because I know when I used to do this stuff many, many years ago, people usually pick the lowest of the tax. You know, our food's at 2%, construction's at 3.5%, hotels at such and such, so they have a tendency, if they're not sure, they're gonna pick the lower of the two. So that person hopefully is looking at all of those categories to make sure that they're reporting under the right one. Would that be part of this job of this contractor?
So we have, yes, I would say we have the contractor, but we also have on staff. Go ahead, Jerry.
So, and I probably should go stand up at the podium as the director here, but Mayor, thank you for the question. This position really is more, or I'm sorry, this contract is really more focused on bringing in sales tax that hasn't been collected. So the focus is generally on larger construction sales tax items. Doesn't necessarily look at those other types of enforcements. We do have a full-time position that does some tax and does some budget, does mostly budget now, that would look at those types of items. But for this, because we're really trying to get the most bang for our buck, that auditor is really looking for the largest sums that they could find, and those are usually on the construction sales tax side.
And I appreciate that, but I'm hoping they look at the others, because I can tell you, I made a living for a lot of years, people filing under the wrong tax code. So there is money there.
Appreciate
So
it.
I just want to make sure that they're looking at those. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, so HR, employee experience. So this is a combination of Gallup and Clifton strengths. So this is ongoing money that we're asking for. This is kind of the backbone of our cultural journey here at the city. We have this survey, Q12 survey that we do every year. Gallup strengths is we've done several. We've done colors back in the day, but this is Gallup and Clifton are the ones that we believe that we have the ability to grow with over the next couple of years. So we're asking for ongoing money related to that. In addition, kind of related as well, is Gallup Boss to Coach. So think of that as it's leadership training for the managers in the city. There's 2 different levels of that. I've been through it myself, and the dollars in the budget that we have are enough to get new hires as they would come in to make sure everybody has the opportunity to go through those, as well as like a higher level training, Boss to Coach 2, so to speak. In case somebody really wants to advance their career. It gives them the tool set to do that internally and keep them here. Culture, supplies, and collateral. So it's for these types of things, core values, that mouse pads that we use in the city. I have mine in orange upstairs at my office. I think that's the newer one, but that's basically what that is. It's small ongoing dollars. And then a class and compensation analyst. So that person will make sure that the onboarding, offboarding work, managing FTE-related data, benefits on the backside, kind of payroll and finance and HR benefits work closely together as we onboard and offboard, so that will be primarily the duty of that person. And then an organizational development manager. Think of that as helping training for existing staff, helping the flow of information, succession planning, making sure that as we grow, sometimes when we lose employees that have 20 years of experience and it's all in their heads, they can make sure help get that knowledge on paper and help it shared between departments. Standby pay increase. This is increasing current standby pay from $2 to $3 an hour to align with market rates. Deferred compensation consultant, similar to like the Mission Square and Nationwide benefits that we currently offer. They'll make sure that our plan remains competitive. And then the expansion of the Wellness Center. This adds an additional 20 hours a week of capacity to the clinic. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you explain again what an organizational development manager is and does?
Yeah, maybe I'll have Lyman can give probably a better example, but it's kind of a broad,
And why? And why?
yeah, I'll let the expert tell you.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The organizational development manager is going to be a key component of continuing our training. Right now, we're using a lot of outside resources, particularly Gallup, as you'll see there. The idea behind the organizational development manager will be to advance our training opportunities internally, building off of what we're doing with Boss to Coach currently, but bringing it in-house, and also developing other required training. So it's advancing the modalities in which we're using more online training, and also providing that leadership training that we're doing, and bringing it more to a Goodyearized model as opposed to something that's just broadly used throughout the industry.
So this person's going to be a manager in charge of organizing that all together?
Manager, yeah, they'll oversee.
instructing?
They'll oversee training and development, learning and development. They'll also oversee our volunteer program, resources there, as well as well-being. So connecting all those components together as well. But the key component of this is advancing our training, our capabilities to both design and facilitate training in-house.
Okay. Who reports to them?
The well-being coordinator, we have a volunteer coordinator. Those would be the two individuals reporting up to that position.
Okay. You're saying right now we're using contracts?
Yeah,
Whereas becoming too
primarily,
cost-prohibitive now?
primarily Gallup, AGTS. Most of our training resources for leadership development is done outside the organization or brought in on a consultant basis.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious. I want to make sure that it makes sense on math-wise. When it's okay to bring people in as long as if we're using contracts and then it becomes to a high enough level to where we need to have someone in-house, that makes sense. But there's definitely more of a cost to all the benefits and everything that we have to provide for an in-house person.
It's
so.
absolutely a more cost-effective approach where you see us spending about $180,000 on Gallup. That's one segment of what they'd be doing. There's a whole host of other training that they'd be doing in-house. So bringing that expertise inside gives us the ability to bring those costs down and also elevate the amount of training that we're doing in the organization and customize that training to our needs as well.
And are they doing just for is it all leadership skills across the entire organization?
Leadership skills.
Is all leadership development going to be housed with this person?
Absolutely. And when we talk about instructional design, also the capabilities to take various concepts. So maybe we're rolling out a new technology, sitting with those subject matter experts and being able to take that information and help design training to send that out to the masses internally.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Laura?
All right, I have a question about that organizational development manager as well. Will this person actually be providing training?
We're looking for somebody that has facilitation skills as
Okay.
well. So part of that not only is them facilitating, but also building our facilitation skills across the organization. We've got a lot of expertise in-house, so
Okay.
even being able to model that, come up with standards around what we want out of facilitation and spread that across the organization.
Okay, good.
So we're going to be developing our bandwidth to deliver training as well.
Wonderful. And on the class and comp analysts that you're going to hire, the way it's described is probably more traditional, what I understand class and comp. I mean, really looking at the market, seeing how we rank, our jobs classified correctly and things like that. But it was just recently described as going to be an interface between the employee and payroll. So would you elaborate on that?
Sure. So this position will sit in our total rewards group, which also is that payroll component on the HR side. So it's going to help. It's going to help provide more bandwidth so that we can spend more time on payroll. The primary function will be on the comp side, so again, those traditional things, but it gives us the capability of what most organizations are doing in terms of going outside and doing comp studies, to be able to do that also in-house, to bring up an advanced comp system, so that we're looking at the market on an ongoing basis, and really hone in on that. But again, the bandwidth that it's giving us inside of that group of employees allows us to focus in on payroll more effectively, and automation of our systems as well.
Good. So the pay scale software is really market data.
Indeed, pay
How
scale
we
is,
rank among our peer cities and keeping us competitive and making sure that we've got jobs classified correctly, because duties change over time and sometimes jobs have to be
absolutely,
reclassified.
absolutely, and directionally, that's where many cities in the valley are moving to. But it gives us that ability to bring up this advanced comp system and be able to share data more effectively as well. So
Okay.
not only are we able to access that data, but we're able to share our data, we're able to match jobs more accurately.
All right.
So it's going to help the overall.
And just lastly on that one, in terms of how you're going to delegate the responsibilities from those different functions, how much of a emphasis will the payroll and employee interface get?
And based upon where they're going to sit, one of the things that we want to do, our total rewards manager is spending a lot of time in that area. We want to be able to offload what they're doing on the comp and class side. They'll have more oversight amongst our HRS analysts who reports to that position, as well as we've got a HR specialist, newly assigned HR specialist in that group as well.
Okay.
Again, that's focusing on payroll, so more oversight in that area.
Good. And then lastly, on the deferred comp, we want to contract for $35,000. We have a deferred comp plan. So what's the plan and for the need for the budget item?
So we haven't had a deferred comp consultant. We've never used one.
How did we
so-
get our plan?
How did we get our plan? So our plan, we've had plans in existence for many years. Our plans have been with Nationwide and Mission Square.
Okay.
Those plans have been in place for, I don't know, a long time, 15, 20 years, longer than I've been here. So the plans have been established.
Okay.
One of the things that they're going to be doing is they're going to be consolidating plans to one vendor. We have 2 vendors now, so we're going to be able to use scale to bring down our fees. So there's a lot of things going on. Plus, they'll be able to look at plan performance more often in a more structured way and provide their expertise to help employees in their ability to invest appropriately.
Great, thank you.
My question, are we having a problem with payroll? This is the third time payroll keeps coming up, and then we want to know how many people finance has for payroll, and then police and fire have an MOU that they're talking about payroll. What's going on with the payroll?
We've had some challenges with payroll that we've addressed through, we did a Kaizen, just looking at our payroll processes. We've also looked at our systems. So we have had some problems with payroll that we're addressing. We've addressed in many different ways. So one of the things that we're doing, we just did an assessment, an external assessment, which we're going to be bringing back to council, the results of that. But looking at our systems, looking at our processes, and we're looking to revamp and to bolster those processes in a more effective way. We've already seen a lot of progress in that regard. So that's work that just continues on. Our accuracy rate is very high, but when you have a problem with payroll, you still have a problem and it impacts people. So
Yeah,
we're
we just want
working
to make sure
eliminate
we're
those.
paying our people what they're supposed to be getting.
Absolutely.
And, because when I started on council, our firemen were turning in their timesheets with pencil and paper, which I could not understand that. So I hope we've come a long way from there.
We have progressed well beyond that, and this also looks at how we continue to enhance
streamline
that
it?
process,
Okay.
absolutely.
And is there a system, if there is a concern or a complaint from an employee, that it's quickly taken care of if they notice that something is amiss, that they think they didn't get what they were supposed to get?
Yes, working with payroll, the payroll team, the HR team, we're addressing those issues, hopefully within that same payroll, if not that same payroll, the next payroll.
Okay, thank you.
If we fix the payroll system, are we gonna let other people go because we fixed it? Now we're so efficient that I'm just curious if we're hiring more people and we fix the problem, or is it gonna justify the amount of people that we have in that department?
And I think one of the things that we're looking at is growth. So the amount of growth and the amount of transactions that happen over time through a payroll period require that growth in the amount of people that we have. Part of what we're doing, we are looking at enhancing our automation within payroll, the accuracy and transfer of data from system to system. We have a lot of systems that we're merging together. So this will allow us to not only enhance the processes, but to more accurately audit and make sure that the data transfers are accurate.
Yeah, I'm all for enhancing and, to make sure that if we're gonna hire somebody, that we actually can pay them for 20 years and that we're not getting rid of them, because I wanna be efficient. So I have to make sure that we're not hiring somebody just to get rid of in a year or two, because we're where we wanna be.
We don't envision that. We envision these as necessary positions in order to ensure the process works properly, but also continues to get better and better for our employees. Things like mobile apps and things like that allow employees to input their time more effectively. Our ESS, looking at enhancing our ESS for employees to access their own data. So all of these things are components of what we're working on with this team that we're building.
Okay.
Benita?
Yes, I noticed we're a new subject, but related to HR. It's obvious that we're hiring a lot of new people. How are we staffed related to HR and our hiring processes?
Just overall, the city, overall,
In HR, do we have enough staff to support those departments that are doing hiring, especially like police and fire?
yes, our vacancy rate right now is about 5%, a little under 5%, so we're in great shape. We're also going to be coming back to council to talk about recruitment. That's part of the strategic plan. In that presentation, we'll talk about where we're at from a recruiting perspective. We do believe we have enough resources to be able to handle the 69.52 positions that we have coming. If we take a look at last year as an example, we had a number of new hires, and by September, we had about 75% of those positions filled, and we're capable of meeting the needs of the organization from a hiring perspective.
Thank you.
Laura?
So Lyman, when we were talking about payroll systems, and you shared what I've recently learned, that we have multiple systems that we use for various different functions, and you talked about working better to run smoother and things like that. I went through the strategic plan just to, I saw a couple of different broad topics, but is there anything in our current strategic plan that will address this issue of the integration of our whole HRIS payment
Yes,
cycle?
there is, and I'm going to look back to Lisa, but I will say that one of the things that we've already done is an HR technology review, and we've also recently done a payroll assessment.
Okay.
The HR technology review looks at our current systems, looks at the opportunity for enhancements, looks at opportunity within the system to see if there are things that we aren't using. So there are some things that have come out of that assessment that will give us a look forward that we're already beginning to work on. Many of these enhancements relate to automation, relate to enhancing ESS, the ability to input time. I think the systems talking together are also part of that, just looking at how we can make those things work better, how we're transferring data, reducing manual processes of data entry is also an element of this as well. So the more we can transmit data from system to system, the less errors we will have as opposed to manual entry.
And if I can on that, there is a specific strategic plan item around integration of financial systems.
Yes.
That is coming, and that is one, as we talk about that. The other thing that we'll be coming back before council, Lyman mentioned a couple of the strategic plan items around the hiring process, which ties into it as well. One thing that's working its way through the audit committee and will come before council is the assessment that Lyman alluded to, and part of that is refers to integration of systems. And so it's an opportunity that's been needed, but it is in the strategic plan as it relates to integration of
Okay.
systems.
So I saw the financial systems integration, and that is, you're saying there's a payroll component to that?
Yes.
Okay, and then there's also a strategic goal of automation of employee process, so that sounds like it obviously has got another goal. All right. Just as a matter of comparison, Keeney, Benita, and I came from a large entity where there was one system for everything. You know, hire, fire, payroll, training, benefits. We still use it as retirees, so there has to be a better way.
And we appreciate that feedback. And as Lyman alluded to, they have recently worked with IT to go through and evaluate that. And that is something that is in our future CIP plan to see how we can, what that looks like. This year, we chose not to put it in the budget. I actually think it may have been one of the items that was not funded because we believe there's, again, looking at the process first is, I think, the right approach versus going and buying a system. So we can buy a system, but if we don't fix process, then, you know.
I just need to know that it's a priority
Yes,
for us.
I assure you, I think it
All right,
is, so.
Thank you.
Vicki?
Lyman, how old is this system, and when was the last time it was updated, since we've had a lot of payroll issues? How old and when was the last time it was updated?
The system was implemented in 2018, and there's been upgrades on a continuous basis. Are we on the latest version? We are on the latest version.
Do we need a new system, do we think? Do we need to make sure that's coming in the budget at some point?
Again, I'll allude back to what Justin just said about the process. So we're heavily looking at the process and also looking at integrations of these systems so they're talking together before we move to saying the system's not going to work for us. So that's the first step in the process. Do we get there? I don't know that we get there. We'll find out, though.
Seems like we've had a lot of issues in the last, especially 2 years, I've noticed, especially with fire and police payroll as far as what they get and their checks and things being wrong and having to come back to you constantly to fix it. So that's my question is, are we adjusting for that? Are we able to work that out?
So I will say, yes, a lot of the things that have been highlighted as payroll issues come down to process and is, so not necessarily the system per se, but its process. But there are some system opportunities there. So one of the things that was discussed as part of the MOU from both groups was the issues and struggles that they've had. And so out of that, we have a working plan to work with both groups to streamline those processes, look at the opportunity to clean up the systems with what systems we have today. And if we do make the determination to change systems, we'll be better prepared for that. If we don't
Right.
fix those processes and clean those up today, then we will find ourselves have spent a considerable amount of money and not be any better for it. So we want to focus on that over the next year and work through that and then make a
So you
determination
think
if we
the
want to
next year we
replace.
should be able to figure that out, so they don't have to keep going through that?
Correct. I think that's, yes, work the next year over the issues that we've been having. And again, some of this is coming through the audit committee, and we'll have further conversation with the council as a whole about the opportunities there and what we need to focus on, prioritize, and then, yes,
And-
ultimately, too, if it's a system issue, we will have to budget that.
That's what I was just gonna say. So if we figure that we can't deal with that, then we
Then-
go to another system.
Correct.
We figure that out and put that in the budget.
And that would be an FY '27.
Because I don't think
if-
that they should go much longer. They've been going a long time with that. I think we need to address it
Okay.
and not kick the can down the road, as I always say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lyman.
Wally?
Well, our IT system, we've had this issue since 2011 that I'm aware of, and it's been the same thing. And we got a new system, and then that system didn't work for us because we had over 1,000 different programs and steps that we use, and the computer wasn't equipped to do that. And we got another one, so we're always, our city has never really benefited by having a really up-to-date, large system that works for everybody, because we have so many different processes. And I have to be honest, I have had no complaints, Lyman, of anyone's salary being not right, but it's being brought up, so apparently there is an issue, But personally, as a council member, no one has ever said I didn't get paid, my check was wrong, I couldn't make my rent or anything. Nobody has complained to me, so I just think that if that conversation's on the street, that doesn't make us look very good. So we need to do something about it. But like you say, you have to work out the system we're in before you can find us another system that's gonna work better, because every process is so different and so complex, and not one size fits all, and not one city has the right one for everybody. And that's what's so difficult, and it's terribly expensive. So we might wanna look at I don't know if we could even survive a complete overhaul of everything. I don't think the city is equipped to do that, but we may just have to take department by department or process by process, and then streamline that and make sure it works.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor.
So-
And I believe that is the approach, is process by process. And I will share that IT does have a strategic plan item that they will be bringing in the next few months with regards to evaluation of the technologies and the various systems that we have across the organization, and their opinion and suggestion on how we move forward with that,
Good.
so.
Can
more
we
to come on that.
consolidate it, do you think? Do we ever have that ability?
I think anything is an option, yes.
Okay.
I think there are certain systems that allude themselves better to supporting public safety, and so there may be a need that you have separate systems, that sometimes one size does not fit best for all. But as we go through and identify, again, fix the process, and then make a determination, and integration is key, and that's what you'll continue to hear more about, is through integration, we can hopefully resolve a lot of the issues with good process behind it.
Well, at least our employees know that a council is now aware of it and that we're working on it, and it's not being put under the table, or we're not ignoring it. And we're dumping it back to you and our IT folks and our HR folks to try to get this thing fixed, and then come back to us and tell us what we need to do. Because we're not the experts. We've all got an opinion, but, we're not the experts.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you. Thank you, Lyman.
Well, the only thing I would add before we move on to the next one, it sounds like city manager, we're gonna have a very thorough discussion when it comes back to us, when it comes to
IT.
payroll, when it comes to the strategic plan. So just kind of keep that in mind as we kind of move forward in that. Thank you. Okay. Next?
Next is information technology. So kind of along the same, perfect, I know, the transition couldn't have laid itself out any better, So yes, APIs. So this is one of the ways, not being at a larger city where one system does everything, that we help these systems talk to each other, right? So that's what APIs do. Then we have a systems engineer. This one specifically, position is going to be in charge of dealing with hardware, not necessarily software, but hardware throughout the city, getting orders, making sure new hires onboarding, offboarding. Also a security analyst, another position that we're recommending. Cybersecurity, everybody knows, is a big thing these days, so we're making sure that we stay up to date and have the appropriate staffing levels. Audiovisual equipment, specifically related to this room right here, to make sure our work sessions can function as the way they need to. Professional services, so this is the equivalent of peak shaving for IT, to help them get through the ebbs and flows of the projects that they help manage throughout the city. And then installation of fiber for fire stations 184 and 185. That will get all of our fire stations connected to fiber to make sure we have optimal response times from our communications network. And then Power BI, so that is a Microsoft product that allows us to help standardize dashboards and reporting throughout the city, so we can consolidate data from our systems to help us do our jobs more efficiently.
Hold on, Wally.
Okay, so with this installation of the fiber, do we now know that from hereafter, anytime we build a fire station, the fiber goes with it? We don't have to do it independently or after the fact? That they're gonna be up and running with the latest fiber?
That's a wonderful question.
They're shaking their head.
What do you think?
Yes.
Oh, here comes Lisa. Welcome, Lisa, to your budget inquisition.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So yes, that would conclude getting the rest of our fire stations connected on fiber, and then any remaining fire stations that are built will continue to have it included with the project.
When we build them and open them, the fiber's there.
Correct.
Great, that's wonderful, thank you.
Yes.
That's really important. Thank you.
All right, Will, you have a question? Go ahead.
Lisa, the API and the Power BI, is that a benefit to all the city departments or particular ones?
That's correct. Power BI will be an enterprise strategy, and that will actually lessen our cost for being able to utilize dashboards and do reporting structure. So we would only have to license the individuals who create the dashboards, not everybody to read the dashboards. And then the APIs is to kind of fix some of these system issues where they need to have a separate system, but they need to talk to each other.
Okay. So with Power BI, you talk about it's an enterprise. Okay, just to put it in layman terms, this is going to be used in multiple departments then?
Yes.
Or is it?
Yes, anybody within the city could utilize it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We good? All right, go ahead.
Digital communications. So city website update. So this is just basically putting our city websites on the same platform, the same architecture, so they have the same look and feel. Economic development, parks, and our city website, all the websites that we manage. Social media care specialist and intern. So this is just to continue using a part-time intern for assistance with social media to help maintain what they're currently doing. And then professional photography services, primarily used for like headshots and promotional media for the city.
Okay.
Good.
Yep.
All right, the fire department. So firefighters and reserve ambulance, so 8 FTEs. This is the final addition for our ambulance build out at our current size in the city. This has been a several-year process, so this gets us to where we need to be. The crisis response conversion, adding there's your 0.52 FTEs. So it's converting a part-time position into full-time and hiring another position for crisis response. Then honor guard, that allows like ceremonial uniforms that they have. So that's been a request for several years. We're going to fund it this year to get them where they've been asking for. So we appreciate their diligence. The equipment maintenance worker. So we've had the same equipment maintenance worker for 14 years now, something like that, which is crazy based on how much we've grown. So this makes sure, as you know, fire uses a lot of specialized equipment, so this helps to make sure that they can do their jobs. Zoll Auto Pulse, that is for cardiac arrest situations. It's expanding the number of equipment items that we have in the city for all the places that we need, for all the apparatus and everywhere else that they need to be housed. Accreditation hearing, this is another multi-year process that we're finally coming to the end on. A couple years ago, we added an accreditation FTE to help us through this process. We are getting to that point, so this will get us over the hump. And that's a big accomplishment for our fire department. Hydration packets. This is something that previously we relied on donations for. It's been a little more difficult to get those recently, so we want to make sure that we continue, our staff continues that, and they have that ability. So we're going to do one-time money, continue to look for additional sources, and we'll look at it each year. Our HOS responder to responder subscription. So this is as a public safety vehicle would like approach an intersection. If I happen to be around that similar intersection, have my GPS on, it'll put up a notification on their screen that alerts them to a public safety vehicle coming. This will hopefully mitigate and avoid a lot of potential accidents that we could have with our public safety staff and citizens. And then hazmat tuition and training. Each year, fire requests the training because it's not every year. They have some that are every 2 years, every 3. So this is the required training that they need to get them through the fiscal year. And then the mass casualty kits. That is just for disaster preparedness. It's small dollars. Does anybody else have any questions for fire?
Oh, next.
So police. So this is where a large chunk of the FTEs come from, is from this 26 FTE request. I do want to make it clear that this hiring, the dollars that we have budgeted are for half a year. So we're going to phase in the hiring of these throughout the year to make sure that we can get them through the academy and get them online, because it takes some time between the time that we hire them and to the time they actually get out to patrol. So this allows them to get where they want to be, making the most efficient use of the dollars that we have. So we know going into next year's budget, we will have to fund those salaries full-time. We're making sure those are set aside and they're already accounted for in our forecast. The Goodyear Real-Time Intelligence and Tactical Center personnel, GRIT for short. There was a work session just about within the past month with council, so that's adding those FTEs. One of those FTEs is going to be an IT person to help support the equipment and technology that we need to run that. Facilities and security upgrades, so this is year 3. This is Dana's group over in PD, so a lot of municipal facilities, we're adding cameras and the ability to make sure we monitor and can take care of the assets that we have here at the city. And then polygraph equipment and training. This allows somebody in-house to have that ability and would just speed up the onboarding process to go through the polygraph process. Any questions?
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
question. I'm just talking on the budgeting. Typically, you would budget, I guess, 26 at 100%. The only reason being is you're going to have to carry them, like you say, next year, which means you're going to have reduced one-time money next year. Because instead of budgeting the 26 at 100%, in which only half of it is going to be covered, that money would typically flow into your one-time money and give you more. So as long as you're all aware of that, because like I say, typically that's a change to what we would typically budget. It's going to give you more actuals, but it's going to give you less one-time money when you roll over. So as long
Yes.
as you're covering that, that's fine.
Yes, that is in our forecast, Mayor. Thank you.
We are.
Go ahead.
We are covering it, and also in talking with Chief Izzet, it's a process to bring those officers on, and so trying to bring all of them on at the same time, this gives them the bandwidth to bring some on in July and the rest of them in January. That also includes some of the support personnel.
No, I understand the mechanics. I'm just saying historically, what you've done is you budgeted 100% because you expect that money to roll over to the next year in one time. As a result, you're going to have less one-time money because of that. I'm not saying it's a bad way to budget because you got your actual, but you got to make sure that's part of your base next year as you get through there. That's all. It's a way it's budgeted, that's all.
Yes,
But no,
and we will always.
I appreciate the change. Just got to make sure it is a change historically how you've done it in the past.
Yes, we will always be transparent about any time we don't fully fund any request in the budget, yes.
Okay. Well, question, Vicki?
When we talked about the cost for the Real-Time Crime Center, we talked about, Jared, I think it was 1 million twice, right? And then it was, what was it for the one time?
So we're actually going to get to we have a request in the CIP portion that we also will be talking about it there. I think, what do you have there for the total?
It looks higher than what we discussed, that's why I'm asking.
There's $2 million for the CIP portion of it, so that's the one-time
I'm
build-out
aware
of
of
it.
that, yeah.
Yep, and then what we have on the screen in front of us, is, what is it? It's about 161,000 one time, and the 1.2 covers the salaries and all the ongoing software support and everything to get that up and running. That should be what was communicated, I believe, in one of the council memos within the
last
past.
meeting that we had is what
Yeah.
I was
Correct.
talking about.
Correct.
And that was what we had talked about.
Yep.
Because I had written that down, and that looks higher than what we talked about.
So the amount we communicated in the manager's memo matches the amounts that you're seeing here in the recommended budget.
But I'm talking about the day we were here, and I asked about the cost because there was no cost brought up, remember?
Didn't we say it was 1 point? What did you have written down?
1 million was it for each, both, and then it was the one-time cost also.
That Friday. So the number that we sent in the manager's memo was the correct number. If I gave you a different number.
That was not the right number
I
then.
apologize for that, then, yes.
Okay.
All right, development services. So a zoning ordinance update. This is additional funding to complete this item. Ensures we have money for public outreach, and that our zoning update is able to scale as we continue to grow as a city. Then we have plan review and inspection services. This is the peak shaving for the development services team to help with the ebbs and flows of development. And then we have several FTEs that we're adding. The net impact to the general fund of all these are actually going to be zero because per our policy to match our ongoing expenditures with our ongoing revenues, we will increase our revenues accordingly where it makes sense. And some of these positions are repurposing existing contractual dollars that we have in the budget. So instead of having a third-party person, we're actually bringing that person in-house, so it is actually a net zero impact as well. So all these positions allow us to have more control over how we're utilizing our development services staff to make sure that we can continue to push all this development that we're continuing to see through as quickly and efficiently as possible.
So the stuff you're repurposing, that was still ongoing, ongoing money that was used to pay for those contractuals?
Correct.
So that's why it's a wash as opposed to you're using one-time money to cover it?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Any questions?
Next.
Okay. Economic development. So Innovation Hub, we're requesting one-time money. So we have had the Innovation Hub, but we're trying to figure out exactly what the optimal way to use that is. So our current contract is running out. We're going to have a partnership with ASU going forward, and we think that will provide more of a hands-on approach and that we think will be something we'd like to do ongoing, but until we see the fruits of that, we're requesting one-time money as a pilot. Similar situation with our business retention program. So we are currently doing business retention, but it's more not as structured, just kind of going to businesses and asking how they're doing. This will work on getting the community within Goodyear together for events and let them share ideas and share for people that understand exactly what they're going through. So if that is successful, then we will ask for this for ongoing money at some point in the future. Otherwise, we'll go back to the drawing board. But we're continuing to see what the best needs for our business partners are. And then last for economic development is business attraction marketing. So targeting kind of retail, hospitality, advanced manufacturing, tech throughout the city, maybe the ballpark area, Canyon Trails, EMR. GSQ kind of has its own marketing plan, but so anywhere but GSQ in the city. So. Any questions?
Don't see any.
Engineering, same thing, that word peak shaving coming up again. So to help the CIP team get through the ebbs and flows and make sure we can push through all these CIP projects that we have. Part of helping that as well is adding a senior project manager to that workload so we can continue to expand the resources we have internally. Traffic management center position. So we currently only have about 5 to 10 hours a week of coverage. This person will be sitting in the traffic management center and add about 40 to 50 hours a week for the weekdays and special events to help coordinate with PD to help the traffic flow around special events and peak times commutes. Management assistant. So with the reorg and moving real estate services from legal underneath engineering, because primarily a lot of their time is spent with CIP projects and development, additional resources to help them make sure they can do their jobs and push everything through. Same thing with temporary admin. It's just continuing funding with one-time money that we've done with them, again, so the engineering department has the necessary behind-the-scenes resources to do everything they do. They're processing a lot of POs, dealing with a lot of big dollars. This administrative staff helps with that. Transportation infrastructure maintenance. So we have an ongoing portion. If you remember last year in the budget, there was about $1.5 million requested for higher levels of service for our striping, our traffic signals, and all of our ITS equipment around the city. So this is gradually phasing that in rather than taking the whole bite at the apple and putting it all in ongoing. We've put about half of the $1.5 million into ongoing this year. Next year, we plan on transitioning even more of that so we can get the city up to the level that we need to with those dollars. Median safety modifications. So this is fixing some areas in the city where you can basically kind of make illegal left turns, kind of snake through in an area you shouldn't be. That causes accidents. It's not safe, so that's expanding the medians in a couple different places to stop that from happening, basically. The real estate professional services, knowing again that they're doing a lot in real estate currently with all the land acquisition we have in our CIP projects that supports those endeavors. And then last but not least, DCR, that's Design Concept Report. So that helps with our CIP 365 initiative specifically for a project that helps us understand the scope of it before we dedicate a lot of big dollars towards it.
Question, Trey?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. In regards to the transit funds, What's the breakdown on there? I was looking specifically for the We Ride on how much we are spending in that. I assume that falls under the transit funds. Is that correct? And do you have a specific kind of breakdown of where those dollars go?
Thank you, Councilmember Terry. Over 2 million of the 2.6, I don't have the exact number, is related to We Ride. That also includes our Valley Metro, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but all of our transit services within the city. But the majority of it, over 2 million of the 2.6, is related to the We Ride program itself.
Okay, so it's 0.6 is for all the other stuff.
Everything
but it's
else.
about approximately
Yeah.
2 million on the We Ride.
And that transit service it's contractually driven, so each year we know what that amount's going to be for the next couple of years. So we have that in our forecast, and we know how those costs are going to change.
Do
Go
we
ahead.
have metrics? I know we've talked about it in the past, and again, I've only been here a few months, so I haven't been able to ask to directly and specifically metrics about the percentage and usage that Goodyear citizens have with the We Ride program, just to kind of see where we are, what's the cost-benefit analysis there. Again, not asking for anything right now, but that's where I'd like to go at some point in this process.
Okay. Laura?
There you go.
The conversation about the transportation infrastructure maintenance made me think about the pavement replacement process, which has really been hit hard the past few cycles because of just the expense. Does that fall under CIP, or would that be, if we were to increase that amount, would that fall under this section?
Trying to think of the best way to answer that. Those pavement maintenance programs could be associated with a CIP project. Whether that's a third party doing it or us doing it ourselves, we would charge the appropriate fees to make sure that we're making the pavement back to its original form. And then, yes, we do believe actually
It's under Public Works.
in Public Works. So I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but that was probably not the best answer to that question.
So would that fall under Public Works?
Yes.
Okay, we'll pick it up then, thanks.
Okay.
Anything else?
2 slides.
Go ahead.
Parks and Recreation. So there's a couple different supplementals in your budget book combined together, these long-lived assets. So we're using one-time money to make sure that we're maintaining our levels of service for items that have useful lives of longer than 10 years. So a couple of those different requests are lumped together in that. Ballpark point-of-sale system. So our current system being used at the ballpark, the vendor is no longer supporting it, so we need to come up with a different solution. So this puts money aside to make sure we can have that. Bruce plans on rolling that out for next fiscal year, so this was an immediate need that we got a late. They told us late in the process, but we're making sure we get that funded. Ballpark coordinator, so that helps with all of the events that we host at the ballpark. It allows, again, some of our managers to not have to be so in the weeds with everything, somebody specifically who can be a point of contact for a lot of those events. Our admin assistant, similar to some of the other administrative assistant requests, just more people, more paperwork, more behind-the-scenes work. That's the jobs that nobody wants to do, but they don't get the respect that they need, but they're very needed. Right-of-way irrigation specialist. So our right-of-way division kind of ties into the ongoing one-time of our landscape maintenance contract that we have. We also have some internal staff that we utilize. When those contract people can't get to us, if a limb's down or something like that, we would use our internal staff to make sure we can fix those roads and get the city running quicker than we'd be able to otherwise. One-time repairs and improvements. This is also kind of a combination of a couple different requests in your book. Related to some fixes around GSQ, some concrete repairs at various parks around the city, just a request to make sure that we maintain the levels that our citizens expect. Support for third-party events. This is money for, one-time money for the Heart Walk, SkaterCon, and our Mavericks events that we've been doing. Kind of similar. Pop-ups in the park. This is one of those we've been doing for several years now. We believe actually we'd like to dedicate ongoing money to do that every single year, so this gives us the resources to do so. The ice rink, and it says real ice. So last year we had the synthetic ice. This is the cost associated with bringing in real ice during our holidays at the square. And then our Star Spangled Fourth drone show. So switching from traditional fireworks to a drone show for the 4th of July. Does anybody have any questions?
Go ahead. I think you.
Okay, I have a quick question. This is really for Parks and Rec. I noticed that in the supplemental request, there's no mention of lighting those 7 ball fields that was brought up by one of our residents, saying that we had ball fields that weren't lit. But no, just next year, let's do it if we can figure out how to do it, so that we can put lights on all of our fields somewhere, somehow, so that we can utilize that. If we've got 1,000 kids that want to play baseball, we want to take care of all of them.
Thank you for that comment. Nathan Torres, Parks and Recreation Director. All of our program fields are lit. So the fields that the resident were talking about weren't city-owned facilities. They were somewhere in the school district and whatnot, but all of our ball fields are lit.
Well, do you think we could work with the school facilities then to get them lit so we could use them? Because obviously we don't have enough fields.
We're working on some strategies for
Great.
sure, and there will be relief coming with that you'll hear later in the CIP with GRC Phase 2.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.
Laura?
All right, well, I'm going to repeat a comment that I made in my individual budget meeting. I think the rink is a great idea, but it is extremely expensive. I know the goal is to try to get some sponsors. I hope we do, but I see Loma Linda goes without its upgrades for $150,000 because we're going to dedicate almost $500,000 to the rink, or our commitment to trying to do some conservation, tangible conservation didn't make the grade, and so I just wanted to say for the record that I think the rink is fun, but there's also things that are practical and would have an ongoing benefit, either to the residents and or for water conservation. And then lastly, we had an employee had an incident with a personal vehicle at GRC recently, and there's no cameras on the parking lot. So would love to hear about that also.
Mayor, Council Member Kano, thank you for your comments on the rink. I do want to share that, that is kind of a pilot program for us. We are looking at some sponsorships and other options to look to offset the cost for that. And we do think that that's going to be really increase visitation here at Civic Square and be a great addition to the city. And we'll come back with you to talk more about that, how we're going to be programming that. But it is a great opportunity for us. And I will pass this along to Nathan for the comment for the GRC.
Great. Thank you. So the first question about some things that were possibly not included, we had submitted some IT improvements for Loma Linda as part of the community room. We're evaluating a different approach there to achieve that goal. And then with regards to the water conservation, turf reduction that we were looking specifically here at GSQ around this building, we are working to do that internally through a different means. So we're sharpening our pencils, and we feel confident we're going to be able to deliver that without the supplemental process.
All right, and then cameras at GRC parking lot.
Yeah, we haven't started design yet, but noted for Phase 2, and we can possibly put those renovations in place for Phase 1 as well.
Great, thank you.
Can you tell us what happened, since we don't know what you're talking about?
Cameras.
There was a wreck in the parking lot?
No, an employee had some damage to the vehicle, and they went to go see if there is any cameras that would see what happened, and there's nothing available. And I know when I've pulled in, I've seen a lot of kids like running through the lot, playing ball and things like that. There's a lot of activity in the parking lot.
So we do have some cameras there around the facility, but not in that area, so well noted.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good.
Vicki?
That's great.
I'm in agreement with Laura on the ice rink, and I made that very clear in my meeting as well. And I think it'd be wonderful, but I think it's entirely too much money to do. I don't think that our constituents would really be okay with that. I realize that we are It's a wonderful thing for people to be able to have something like that, but I am concerned about that amount of money when there might be other things that we need to spend that on, that constituents really wouldn't be okay with that. That is a lot of money, so I want that to go on the record as well, how I feel about it. And I'm in agreement, 100%.
Brandon?
Yeah, so are we starting, do we have to do the drone show already this year? Or is that in preparation for when Fulton builds the houses around that area?
Do you want?
Like, how many more years do we got till we have to do that? And is
Mayor-
it more expensive than normal fireworks?
Councilmember Hampton. Yes, so the time has come. We are growing very quickly. We have lost our area that's considered the fallout zone to shoot the fireworks. And so this is the year to convert over and transition into the drone show. It's really kind of cool when you think about it. We're a progressive city. We've got lots of great things happen here. It's great technology to bring. It does come with a higher cost than a fireworks show, but we are not able to shoot the fireworks around the ballpark like we have in the past.
Okay, how much more is it? What's the delta?
The delta between the two is,
We did it last year. Nothing's changed, right? So,
we did shoot them off last year.
that was an enhancement,
Huh?
enhanced firework presentation.
It was not. We're looking at a increase of
My kids loved it.
$182,000.
How much?
$182,000.
That's a lot, yeah.
And that'll provide us a 400 drone show with
Ah.
some pyrotechnics on it to provide, we are looking at, this is going to be a transition for our city too. You have the traditional fireworks and moving to something. We are looking to really wow our people, to have something that's commiserative of our city and something that they will remember to make that experience for them on their 4th of July.
And then are we gonna do any sponsorships for that too? Because I know I went to an event with drones and you could put logos and things like that up in the air as part of the presentation.
Yes, so we definitely are looking for sponsors and people to come in to partner with us to help offset some of the costs for that.
Okay, and then with the rink too, I agree that Real Life would be fantastic. I don't know if we should do some exhibitions or something for hockey or something. I don't know, to enhance it somehow, to make some money off of it. But I think I'd be okay if, with the Real Life, as long as there's sponsorships that significantly helps us with it. Because $500,000 is pretty expensive, and then on top of another 100,000 plus for the fireworks. So that's quite a bit of extra money. So it's nice, but I just want to make sure that we're doing the best we can with the money that we have. So that'd be my comment as well.
All right, Vicki.
Glenn, can you let us know who the sponsorships are as far as when you get ready to do the ice rink? Is there a way of letting us know? I don't think we should be doing it unless there are sponsorships because of the amount of money. I just don't think it's okay. And I think it should come back to us and let us know what those sponsorships are and what you're kind of getting to on that. Is there a way of letting us know? I don't know if Laura feels the same way, but that's kind of how I feel. We should know what's going on there. It shouldn't just be giving free willy-nilly. I want to know what's going on.
Councilmember Gillis, we can follow back up with you. Right now, we don't have any commitments for sure. We have reached out to a few companies. They, look at their portfolio and see what they would like to do for marketing.
Right.
And so we can come back to share who we have and to discuss that.
Right. That's totally fine with me. I just think it should be made very clear that if we don't have sponsorships, we should revisit whether we should do this or not, because it's a lot of money. And like I said, I don't think the constituents would be okay with that. I'm all for the drone show, because I don't know how many fires, I guess I could direct that to Paul, how many fires last year happened. I mean, because I was standing up in one of the suites and I saw at least 3 or 4. So it was dangerous, I thought. I don't know how bad the fires were, but they were fires, obviously. So I think the drone show is awesome. I don't have a problem with that. But it seemed like they were all around us.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Paul Louisi, Fire Chief. Last year, we did have a fire that was north of the ballpark. So it was caused by some fallout, but actually last year it wasn't a terrible, knock on wood, terrible year, so for us.
But you're in agreement, Paul, that the drone shows would be better at this point because of what we have around the ballpark?
Yeah, we had some concerns over the last couple of years just because of the encroachment now upon the ballpark and the areas that we could safely shoot in the past have now really started to diminish. We also know as it goes into the future, working with parks and those teams to ensure that everybody's safe. We don't want a fallout zone that includes
Right.
humans or other type of combustibles.
So it could be dangerous. So the drone show, that's great. Thanks, Paul.
Yes.
The drone show, I'm totally for. I think that's great because I want to make sure that everybody's safe. And the people around on the ground are safe as well as the people in the ballpark. But I'm still iffy on that ice rink, and I want to know more about it before it's just, okay, we're going to do this. That's a lot of money. Thank you.
Trey?
Yes, talking about the switch from fireworks to the drone show, my knowledge on this is limited on how they work, how they operate, but would we own the drones, or is that spending to a third party to then come in and operate? Is that like a rental, or would we end up actually owning the drones and operate it ourselves?
Mayor, Councilmember Terry, great question. So what we do is we contract with a vendor that provides the drones. They're their drones that they program, they control, and they program a show specially for us. So it's not just a canned show. We work with them to design what you see in the sky and what that looks like.
Okay, so this wouldn't be a scenario where, like, spending on artificial grass to get out natural turf where there would be long-term savings. This is a contracted service for an event, for a show.
Yes, you are correct.
Got it. Thank you.
City Manager?
Just a little bit more information. We did spend quite a bit of time on the drone show. A lot of us were really, it was hard to let go of the fireworks. And we did look at different locations throughout the city to see if there was a chance to continue the fireworks. We really just don't have a better place than the ballpark for the 4th of July event. It's perfect, and I believe it is time to move to the drones and not worry about human combustibles. In combustibles, okay.
All right, before we go to the next one, how about 10-minute break for everybody? Everybody good? We'll break for about 10 minutes before we start the next one, all right?
All right, we are on Public Works. So Public Works supplemental requests. There's an admin services manager position. Long-lived asset replacements is again a couple different lines together to make sure we replace things with useful lives of greater than 10 years. Bridge maintenance pilot program. So we have about 27 bridge structures within the city, and this allows us to really undertake what it might cost us on an ongoing basis if we want to create an ongoing program to support those. And then the pavement management inspection support. Councilmember Kano, this is related to your prior question about pavement maintenance management. So we are adding, if you look on the bottom left, the HERF fund, the base budget increase, that $500,000 goes directly towards that program, as well as this supplemental recommendation. So all those are going to support to make sure our roads stay up to the pavement index values that we want to stay at.
Did you have a question? Question?
So the bridge maintenance, that's already a state or national thing, right? Because I know there are a couple bridge collapses that happened in other states. Isn't that are the bridges already under a maintenance program? And what's the periodicity of that? I understand how it's good. It's okay having a local one. I don't know if we have I think we have a civil engineer on staff.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Sumit Mohan. I'm the Public Works Director. Councilmember Hampton, to your point, yes, the Arizona Department of Transportation, which is the state of Arizona agency, does perform inspections annually on the bridges, and they have been providing us reports for the last several years. And none of our bridges are really in a critical condition, but then we have not had a bridge maintenance program in the past. So this is the first time that we are proposing one. It is the right thing to do. We have 27 bridges, as Ryan referred to, and with this initial funding, we'll be able to start addressing 2 to 3 bridges. Our staff is able to take care of a few things like minor erosion and some debris maintenance, but for bigger maintenance of the deck, the under deck, the minor spalling of the concrete repairs, for that we need contractors. So that's why we're recommending and requesting a basically bridge maintenance program for at least this year on a pilot basis, where we will also basically develop a program which can provide level funding for the next 10 years. So next year you may expect a bigger ongoing program.
And the pilot will be to use contractors to correct bridges that have issues then right now?
Great question, Councilmember Hampton. So the $500,000 will be broken up in 2 pieces. $375,000 will be applied directly for the bridge repairs, and we have already identified 3 bridges for that, and $125,000 will be put towards getting a professional assessment done so that an engineering company can provide us their expertise on how to prioritize the bridge repairs for all 27. In addition to that, how to make sure that, again, the funding can be leveled for. So there will be 2 components of that.
Yeah, I'm okay having it. I guess I'm surprised. I wasn't sure how, it's okay having an internal program, but because right now we take whatever findings we get from the state and we go fix those right now once a year. This will be more frequent, is what I imagine.
So, Councilmember Hampton, the thing is that we have been getting these reports in the past, but since we did not have a full-blown, properly budgeted program, we have been able to address only small things. But now we will be able to address, again, the bigger things are the decks and also the spalling of the concrete, which needs to be repaired. So now we will be able to address, should council approve our request.
Okay, and then
Kenny wants to add something.
Mayor, Councilmember Hampton, just to clarify, we don't get money, there's no money that comes from the state to maintain our bridges.
Yeah.
They do the inspection. So when we've done maintenance in the past, it's been on a infrequent basis. So this is trying to look to be able to create a program to be able to address those as issues come up, so we can make sure we're taking care of them. We don't have serious issues coming up in the future.
No, I think it's a great idea. I figure we're not getting any money from the state. I know they do just inspections, but I was just curious on the periodicity of that, because I know, like I said, other states had issues with collapses and things. So, no, I think it's great. Thank you for bringing it up. And then the payment management inspection system or support system, I know I brought this up in the past. I think you guys said we're fine, but I'm just thinking of higher use roads, for example, like the Buc-ee's that's gonna go in, you're gonna have 100,000 people a day or a week going through there, just to make sure that those sections of pavement are adequate to maintain, and then working with ADOT to make sure that that off-ramp is gonna be adequate for the amount of people that might be utilizing it, and also on-ramp, things like that. So, because I get off there every day, almost to go to the gym and things like that. So I was trying to imagine in my mind what 100,000 more people would feel like on that bridge there, or getting off and off ramp there. So just hope you can work with ADOT. We're less than a year now away from that Buc-ee's being there. So just trying to prepare for it. Thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead.
So sticking with Public Works, this is our solid waste fund, one of our 3 enterprise funds in the city. There's 2 supplemental requests. One is for a recollect text notification. Currently, we just utilize emails and robocalls, so this will be a little more efficient. And then thermal imaging cameras in the back of our trucks. Sometimes the difference between seconds and minutes if we happen to get a fire in the back there. So this is meant to identify high levels of heat. So therefore, the driver would be notified, and we could take corrective action to hopefully save some of our vehicles from going up in flames. So we've lost 2 vehicles, I think, this year already. So this will hopefully help with that.
Question?
Does our contracted vendor for trash collection, do they have this technology? Because it is becoming very problematic everywhere.
Mayor and Council, Sumit Mohan, the Public Works Director, and Councilmember Kano, you bring up an excellent point. Our contractor is Waste Connections, and you will be actually, this body will be very pleased to know that not only in Arizona, but in the entire world, City of Goodyear, Solid Waste Team, and Fleet Team, and Fire Department have performed this unique partnership and really come up with an innovative solution, which right now is getting extreme high amounts of praise from all across Arizona and the US, where we are testing this infrared camera. A lot of these components have been available in different places, but nowhere else have these been put together. So as we are going through this, we recently had the Connective in Phoenix downtown, as well as many innovation conferences, and people are really looking up to the City of Goodyear to lead the basically this cause of really finding that hot lithium-ion battery which somebody discarded. So as this system gets developed, we have put 1 pilot in there in 1 truck. We hope to put in 5 trucks. And as this takes hold, you will probably see this go on thousands of trucks, not only across the US, but around the world.
Thank you. Brandon?
I'm sure this is a no-brainer, but I'm sure you already have I really appreciate the thermal. That makes perfect sense for that area. Does the team have a process in place if there's a fire? Like, they have a procedure in place to where if I'm on the truck and I'm driving it, like, what do I do? And who do I call? And all that kind of thing in place, just ready to go, so they know what they need to do. They're trained appropriately for those kind of things.
Mayor, Councilmember Hampton, the team is thoroughly trained, and in fact, our solid waste equipment operators are the best staff to address any fire that comes on for their own safety as well as the safety of the equipment. In addition to that, our partnership with Fire Department, we are obviously learning from each other and helping and supporting each other. So because of the knowledge and really the speed of reaction and response time, we have been able to minimize damage for most of the fire trucks that have happened so far. It all happens really just very quickly. Ryan mentioned the difference between seconds to minutes. And really, and he talked about the trucks, I would say. The other part is our operators. This is, solid waste is one of the 5 most hazardous jobs in the United States. So whatever we can do to make it a little safer for our people.
Have they looked at any fire suppression systems on board of a truck, like a CO2 or something like that on board? I don't know. I guess I'm creating new things here, but just curious.
No, absolutely. We have, and we continue to.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm gonna get into business.
Good. Go ahead.
So switching to water services and stormwater, there's one request for a box culvert assessment. And that's just basically similar to kind of what we're doing with the bridge maintenance program, making sure that we assess our box culverts. Sometimes box culverts are on bridges, sometimes they're separate. So this is just making sure nothing falls through the cracks, so to speak.
Next.
So water services, this gets us to our enterprise funds, the remaining two, water and wastewater. I didn't say this on solid waste, but I'll say it for all of our enterprise funds, that all the recommendations before you, if they were to be approved, would go within our currently adopted rate structure. You will hear a lot more from us later in the calendar year as we work towards new rate adoption, but this will ensure that if we were to just continue with our current rates, all these positions and all the requests would be able to be funded without having to make any modifications to the current program. So for water services, a monitoring analyzer for entry points. So this just helps monitor water quality, basically. We're recommending a SCADA engineer. SCADA people help with the IT side of things for all the monitoring that we do on the water wastewater side. A water conservation specialist. This position will be focusing more on the commercial and industrial sectors in the city. Contract services for fire hydrant maintenance, kind of the same thing, making sure that all of our assets have the appropriate resources to be maintained. A supervisor position, Site 12, a booster enhancement. This is another long-lived asset that we want to make sure that we're maintaining. A water treatment operator position, and then a disinfection system upgrades for our wells. Does anybody have any questions?
Got one? Go ahead.
I've had a conversation during my budget meeting and then also during the meeting I had with Keeney and Barbara over the water allocation policy, just about, I'm going to get on my soapbox. It's been payroll and now it's water. But I'm really happy to see the SCADA engineer. I think that, that's an essential service. Glad to see dedicating that IT support. But one of my questions was, does Water Services have a dedicated IT person? And the answer was no. This is a really critical enterprise department, a lot of function. Typically, I think in a large enterprise department like this, you would have financial analysts that are really going to help you with forecasting and things like that. And I know there's an admin services manager who has a full plate of responsibilities. And with the enterprise department, the money and the operations are really they go together. And I know they're separated out here, but they have to work closely together. And we haven't had any kind of dedicated data analysts for forecasting, for planning, for just efficiency and things like that. Again, no dedicated IT support. And I didn't see anything come up the budget. I know there's going to be rate studies and perhaps things will come up, but this is just something I think is going to be really important as our system grows. So there's no question, I guess it's a comment, unless there's anything, you could say there's something, a vision in the works. I see help coming, but anyway, that's my comment.
Okay, anything else? Next.
So moving on to the wastewater enterprise fund. Top request, operational cost for our brine disposal CIP project. We approved money last year for part of that. As that comes to completion, this is the remainder of the ongoing money we will need for that project. Kind of along the same lines, we have an agreement with Perryville Prison, so Grinder, the operating expenses are coming in a little bit higher, so this makes sure we can maintain that accordingly. Las Brisas lift station, so it's experiencing high levels of hydrogen sulfide, so this will hopefully reduce both the odor and the chemicals to make sure everybody around the facility remains safe. The senior maintenance mechanic position we're adding, position for operations supervisor for collections, and then one last long-lived asset replacement. Are there any questions on wastewater? Yes.
Go ahead.
There's a request for a vehicle for a maintenance supervisor who apparently spends a lot of time in the field. I'm curious if there's any other similarly situated supervisor who works in the field that has not been provided a work vehicle.
Mayor and Council, excuse me, Anthony Dudley, Water Services Deputy Director. Yes, we have several supervisors that don't have vehicles. So we use a pool vehicle. We have 3 pool vehicles, but if they're available, they're available. If not, then we drive our own cars. That's really what's going on.
Really? They have to drive their own cars out to all the locations where they go?
Yes, ma'am.
There's no spare cars in fleet anywhere?
Mayor, Councilmember Kano, this is one of them. I know we're always balancing the line between what we can do with our existing rate structure and budget. So this is something, as we go through the rate study, we'll try to address as well. But we'll also work with fleet to see if there are any additional vehicles that are available to address that need.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Go on.
All right, that brings us to the end of the supplemental section of our presentation. The last part of our presentation relates to our capital improvement program. So kind of for the purposes of the public, we define CIP projects here in the city as projects greater than $500,000, excluding vehicles, reimbursements, and asset management. These categories listed on the screen are how we will kind of go through the CIP, how we group our CIP projects together and talk about them as a city. I will say that a lot of the CIP projects that we have are driven by our master plans. So if we want to know how did we come up with these, they're master plan driven. Our transportation master plan, our IWMP for the enterprise funds, Parks and Rec master plan, and our strategic plan. All these have been updated in the past 1.5 to 2 years, and they provide a roadmap as to how we come up with a lot of our capital improvement projects. So as part of our CIP, for the purposes of council and the public, we use, per our financial policy, restricted funding first. So if we have bond funds, impact fee funds, we use those before we would utilize general fund money. We maintain 5 to 10 year forecasts for all of our capital funds. Honestly, the majority of the funds in the city we have 5 to 10 year forecasts on, but specifically as we're talking about CIP. And then any unallocated dollars, when we showed the breakdown of the ongoing and the one-time in the general fund way up at the beginning of the presentation, there was about $49 million. That's what's used for future years in the CIP to make sure we have enough money to do what we need to do. So as part of our 5-year CIP, like there is every year, there's debt that we plan on issuing. Specifically, next year in fiscal year 26, we plan on utilizing some of our GO bond authorization. Have debt related to our water, wastewater, again, within our rates is what we plan on doing. And then we are going to start spending a little bit of money related to GRC Phase 2, and that will also be debt funded.
Good question. Are any GO bonds being used to fund water or wastewater projects? The answer to that?
I don't think so currently. I say think. I can get you a solid answer. We have an existing authorization, but we haven't utilized it.
The only reason why I ask, I got an aversion of using any GO bonds for water or wastewater because we've got 2 water companies, one north and south. I don't think it's fair to use GO bonds and have the people north of 10 paying for stuff that they don't get any, in my view, any benefit from. So it's important that I know whether GO bonds are used for water or sewer infrastructure.
So Mayor, this 5-year CIP does not use GO bonds for any water or wastewater.
That's what I.
In the past, we had
I know in the
issued,
past we have, I just need in the future.
but nothing in this plan does.
Okay, thank you. Go on.
So here's a high-level look at our 5-year CIP. So it's coming in at about $790 million. That's about 41% of our total fiscal year 26 recommended budget. So it's a lot of money. It's one-time money, but it's a lot of money. That being said, there's about 87 projects that make it up over the course of the 5 years. And out of those, only 20 of them are new. And the 20 projects make up a very small percentage. I say that because as we go through the CIP here and look at the different projects, a lot of these should look familiar to council who's been here because a lot of these projects, they're big dollars, but they take multiple years to go through them. So those are the ones that make up the majority of the money. So those are the ones we're going to focus on and make sure everybody's comfortable with them. So starting with transportation. This is the transportation portion of the CIP. So probably 40% of the total dollars. And we plan on using, like we talked about, GO authorization for transportation out of the next 5 years. And here's a couple of the main projects. So this is Estrella Parkway, Vineyard Road to MC 85. So this is AKA our Estrella Bridge project. This should be very familiar to everyone here at Council. It's been in the works. $114 million is the total project budget. Scheduled completion for fiscal year 2029. About $97 million of that is coming next year, so you should start to see things moving out there pretty quickly. Next project, Cotton Lane, Estrella Parkway to Cotton Lane Bridge, $21.7 million. This project is for improvements of about like a 1.5 mile long stretch of road from Cotton to Estrella Parkway and the Gila River Bridge crossing. The proposed improvements will be lane expansion, road widening, and then signage and pavement and all the stuff that comes along with widening the road. This project is scheduled for completion in 2027. Similar to the Estrella Bridge, a lot of that money is budgeted in 26 next year, so you'll start to see a lot of that come to fruition here very shortly.
Just a quick question for you. With the cost of concrete and all that stuff going up on your numbers, how confident did you feel that these numbers are probably at least close to what it's going to cost to build it?
That's a great question, and I don't know if Steve has anything to add to that. We go through this process. It's a CIP 365, so over the past couple months, we've been looking at cost estimates, and we touch every single project, so it's the latest and greatest as of a couple months ago, but as you know, costs are very volatile. So I'll let Steve kind of speak a little bit more to that.
Well, Mayor, Council, Steve Cinto, City Engineer. Absolutely what Ryan said, once a year, later in the year, we start looking through all the existing projects. Also at the same time, we assess new projects. Where we need to, we ask a third party for their expertise as well. So we do our best to update these projects with the actual cost so that we can execute them.
So you feel good about the ones we have in there now?
We've done our best to get them to where we believe we can execute them, absolutely.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you. Go ahead.
So we have two key projects going into Estrella. Looks like they have different completion dates. We won't be doing them both at the same time, will we?
That's a great question, Councilman Mercano. So we don't have the exact construction schedules in place today. However, we will work to make sure that there's plenty of access for residents going to and from Estrella. A lot of that has to do with construction sequencing. For instance, the bridge project, we'll be able to keep traffic on the existing roadway while we build the new 3 lanes and then flip it. So we won't see a reduction in volume there. So we are aware of those and very cognizant of the need to keep traffic flowing.
Good question. Go on. Yeah.
The next project, another one that sounds familiar to council probably, Saraville Road, Yuma to Elwood. So this is widening on the west half of Saraville. It includes land acquisition, utility relocations, raised medians. $3 million of it's currently funded this year. $20 million is funded in next year, fiscal year 26. And this is utilizing impact fees for the majority of the project. Another key project we want to highlight, Estrella Parkway. This is Hadley to Goodyear Boulevard North. $4.5 million project, scheduled completion fiscal year 2029. This is to design and construct about 325 linear feet of roadway on Estrella Parkway between Hadley, which is the post office access road, and Goodyear Boulevard North. Recently, we've been discussing intersection potential retaining wall options if necessary, if that comes up as part of the project. There is federally owned land, so there's a bunch of red tape that has to go through with this, but it is definitely one that our team's got their eyes on to work starting next year. Dilemma Zone. This one came up before you last year for the first time, but for the new council members, this is to upgrade our ITS systems. So if you look at the picture in front of you, the yellow, that represents basically the vision of our current cameras. And this would expand the view of our cameras from the yellow section all the way through to the green section. The idea being, if you see traffic coming to an intersection sooner, the lights are able to respond to the traffic based on the speed of the vehicles and will help avoid collisions in the intersection. There's $2 million budgeted in that currently in 25, $2 million in 26, and $2 million in 27 to get us through for completion in fiscal year 28. Indian School Road, Perryville to Citrus, $43.7 million. This was the combination of several CIP projects a couple years ago, kind of the let's knock it out all at once approach. And this is to add 2 through lanes on Indian School from Perryville to Citrus. I think it will result in 6 lanes at completion, and it'll eliminate an existing Scallop Street condition. There's about $4 million budgeted in the current fiscal year, 7.5 next year for land acquisition, and then construction in 27 is where the majority of the dollars are sitting. This is a strategic plan project as well, and we're on track to hit the construction date in the strategic plan.
Just a quick question on that, if we turn over to Trey. When that is improved, does it still have 2 single lanes in the Buckeye? I'm trying to picture where that actually is in Citrus, because I've seen some of those movements on it. It's still going to be a problem with those trying to get the Buckeye as a result of the 2 lanes going in. Am I?
There's a mile of a county island, I think, between us and Buckeye along Indian School.
So even when we make the improvements, there's still going to be a bottleneck if they're heading west. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yes, Mayor.
But I know it's not Goodyear, but that's still an issue, right?
Correct.
Is that what you had to say, Craig?
No, I had one more, and Steve, I know I've asked you about it before, but just wanted to ask in this setting, does this project include stoplights when it comes to Citrus Road and Indian School as well as Perryville and Indian School?
Councilmember Terry, yes, absolutely. There are 2 stoplights planned, 1 at each of those major intersections. We are going to try and deploy those as early as possible in the project, because we know that it will help relieve some of the congestion out there.
Okay, yeah, because like I've told you guys since I've been here, especially around the Sedea community, that's all I hear about is the construction, everything, stop sign, 2-lane road, traffic backed up for a half a mile all times of the day. So I understand it's still a couple years away from total completion, but just want to make sure that that's on everyone's mind when it comes to this project.
Just to piggyback on that, is there any coordination with Buckeye or the county? Because even after you make those improvements, it's still going to be a bottleneck.
Mayor, the design team, as we get into the design, we absolutely will be coordinating with them. And we can definitely follow up with the appropriate entities as far as opportunities for them to continue. Of course, that would be based on their funding and their priorities.
Yeah, I agree with the prior comment. I'm on that road a lot, on 2 roads, but 2 tires. But the thing is that stop sign on both ways that you hit on there really backs up. So, all right, well, thank you.
That along with, we have industrial along Indian School and the 303, and you get a lot of semi-trucks trying to use those stop signs in the construction zone, because the way ADOT designed the 303 going south onto I-10, they have like less than a mile to get all the way across the highway if they want to go west on I-10. So that's just adds to the congestion and potential collisions there.
Go ahead.
So
City
Mayor,
Manager.
along those same lines, I have had conversations with Buckeye on what we could possibly do between Perryville and Jackrabbit. That's a very congested area also, Fulton Homes on one side and residents on the south side. I will continue those with the new management.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Another key project, Estrella Parkway and Yuma Road, so inside the Goodyear Loop. So this is going to eliminate another Scallop Street condition inside the little loop between Estrella Parkway and Yuma, adding 1 through lane in each direction. This project is $31 million in total, partially budgeted in fiscal year 26, 27, and 28, and we'll utilize GO bond funding for the project. Next is Estrella Parkway MC85 intersection improvements. So this is design construction, adding bike lanes, sidewalks, a southbound right turn lane for Estrella Parkway, and upgrading the traffic signal at Estrella Parkway and MC 85.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can we, Steve, can we use any of the money from Safe Streets for this project?
Vice Mayor Campbell, great question. Currently, that's going to be all utilized for a study and a pilot project for bike lanes, so the answer directly is not for this project.
But if we wanted to add to it after we do what we're doing here, we could do that once we get this study done.
It's in the realm of possibilities.
Okay.
Trey?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, when it comes to this project and the bike lanes, we are under no intention to reduce the amount of vehicle traffic lanes. Is that correct?
Oh, correct.
Okay.
This would be expanding to the full roadway section per standards.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there.
Absolutely.
Anything else? All right, go ahead.
So this would be the opportunity if there's any other CIP projects in your budget book under the transportation section that you might have questions on. I do have one comment that I want to make clear, that you will see a tentative adjustment when we come here in about a month and get back together related to the Fulton Development Agreement at the ballpark area. So there was a development agreement approved by council back in 2023, basically saying that when they start to develop out there, typically, as council knows, they're only required to do their half-street improvements. But we've agreed with them that to avoid creating another scallop street condition, that they're going to go out and construct both sides of the road and do some public infrastructure as well. And we will be reimbursing them for those costs that they didn't have to do. So that, we've just recently had conversations as early as a couple days ago, I think last week, and we finally nailed that down. So that cost for us to eliminate the scallop street is going to be around $10 million. So where do we come up with the $10 million for? Because it wasn't originally budgeted. There is a project sitting out in year 4 and 5 of the 5-year CIP that we're going to shift 1 year. So by moving it 1 year out from 29 to 30 to 30 to 31, that frees up the additional $10 million that we would need for this year to fund the piece of that to eliminate a scallop street condition. So.
To do that, do you need a budget amendment or anything to move that money? Because you've got a total in there right now. Or you got a holding dollar amount in there for that?
When we present the tentative budget every year, this will be one of those reconciling items that we will make sure that is shown, that shows the movement of that money from what we talked about today to what the final budget adoption number will be.
So that'll be in the tentative budget?
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mayor and council, what Ryan's talking about as well, you will be seeing a development, the results of that negotiation we're working with Fulton Homes on, you'll be seeing that through a development agreement we'll be bringing to council likely before the summer recess.
Okay, just want to see the mechanics of getting that into what we're not talking about right now. Okay, thank you.
The next grouping of CIP projects that we talk about, and I apologize that I didn't mention this, but on the bottom corner, you can see page 83 of your budget book if council wants to follow along. So the enterprise section, just like we talked about for supplementals, this is funded within the current rate structure. So any projects that we approve or recommend today will be able to be developed with the current structure as is. There's over 25 projects in the enterprise CIP. Here's a breakdown of it on the screen. A lot of them are happening in 26, but a lot of those are maintenance-related projects. So it's nothing exciting. It's making sure, again, that we have a reliable system for our enterprise funds and that we can keep our assets updated as they need to be.
Now, quick question for you. On the 5-year, the way we had set up for our funding and our rate structure, and these numbers have changed over the time with the cost, is that putting us outside of meeting those 5-year, or are we still within the schedule that we have?
We are still within the schedule that we have, Mayor.
Are we?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. All right, thank you.
So one of the key projects is our Goodyear Water Reclamation Facility plant expansion. Again, this is not new to council. It's a combination of 3 different CIP project numbers, but they're all dealing with expanding our plant on 157th Avenue. $140 million, so it's a big project. Currently scheduled completion for fiscal year 28. There's about $17 million in the current year's budget in 25. A big portion of that will be coming next year, and we plan on using revenue bonds to help fund that next year. Sticking with the theme of plant expansions, the Rainbow Valley plant. So 2 of our largest plants, due to our growth, need to be expanded. Again, this shouldn't be a new project for council. It's 2 different CIP projects, all related to expanding the Rainbow Valley plant. Current capacity there is about 0.75 MGD. This would increase it to 2 MGDs. This is also a strategic plan project, just like the 157th plant project is, and they are both on schedule. And again, scheduled completion for this one is fiscal year 27. The brine disposal project, which we mentioned earlier, is actually fully funded in the current year, but we're mentioning it because it was something that we issued debt for in the current year. It was brought before council. So just wanted to make sure that we talked about that. There's 2 different projects. There's the pipeline itself, and then there's the connection at the Palo Verde nuclear plant. Both of those are looking to come within budget with completion in this current fiscal year, actually. And then the Bartlett Dam water purchase. So SRP is looking to expand the Bartlett Dam, which will enlarge the reservoir's capacity. So this is essentially helping them fund that expansion in exchange for additional capacity that we can add to our water portfolio. And this is scheduled funding in 2030, but it will take time to complete and get time for that to push through to be added to our water portfolio.
Will this be paper water or actual water as a result of this?
I will let Anthony speak to that.
This will be actual water, not paper water.
All right, will this have anything to do with being able to expand our water treatment facility with more water being wheeled in after we do the next 8 million gallons per day upgrade?
That's correct.
So it will give us opportunity to get some more water into the plant?
You're correct. We're supposed to be in design for the new water plant by 2028 or so. The expansion will be completed by 2030. So that'll move that plant from 8 MGD to 16 MGD.
But this purchase will allow us possibly to go past that?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good news. Thank you.
It's slow, but it's good.
It's good news, yes.
Historic Goodyear sewer replacements. So we recently did a project, completed one for the water replacements in historic Goodyear. This is on the sewer side of things. It's a $6.6 million project, scheduled completion in fiscal year 2031. Anybody have any questions on the enterprise side of things?
No, the only question I have is, since we have Liberty and we have us, and we've had some challenges in the past, are they seem to be over the hump now as far as any pulling permits or pulling meters or anything over in the Liberty issue? Have you heard of anything out there?
I have not heard of anything. Anthony, have you heard anything from Liberty? Any complaints? Moses stays in touch with me, but he has not mentioned anything, and I don't live in the Liberty area and haven't heard complaints.
I haven't heard of no complaints, Mayor and
Okay.
Council.
Yeah.
That's
All's
good.
quiet.
No news is good news?
That's good news.
Okay.
That's good news. Besides, Moses, with a name like that, should be able to fix anything, right?
All right, general government. So this is kind of the bucket that doesn't really have a home per se. A lot of these are municipal structures, but some of them do have high visibility for our citizens. There's only 8 projects in there, so it's the smallest bucket of our CIP. But the first project that we want to bring to your attention is the cul-de-sac expansion. So to that will connect a roadway from the end of the cul-de-sac to Monte Vista Road. You can see it in yellow there. It will not be a yellow brick road, but it's yellow on the slide in front of you. So you can see it circled. But that'll alleviate a lot of congestion during our city events. And that is a 2026 project scheduled to be completed in 2027. Kind of in the same area, there is an overflow parking lot that is planned on being constructed. So it's temporary using millings, not going to be asphalt, but it allows about 600 different vehicles to be there. Again, will help with the congestion around our events here at City Hall.
Let's go back to that one there for a second. As we start to move into our Christmas holiday seasons where our traffic starts to get a lot, is that it's going to be striped before all this stuff gets in? I assume before we have an overflow, because that's where people are parking now anyway, over there for some of our events. I think Eileen's coming up.
Mayor, council members, thank you for that question. Yes, we have the ability. We have a little robot that paints lines. We also usually bring in parking attendants. We bring in a company that parks the vehicles so that it keeps it nice and straight and aligned. We won't have it like permanently striped, but we can bring in the striping for when we need it for events.
Okay, because this won't be done until our next big event comes in around Christmas time, right?
That is the plan, Mayor, that we are really going to push to try to get this done so that we're prepared for the fall, so that we have plenty space for everyone that's going to come in to enjoy holidays on the square.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Our traffic management center remodel, $5.3 million project. It'll enhance our current traffic management center's functionality, upgrade the video wall, video management system, several ITS network communications. General fund funded, expected completion fiscal year 2027. Any questions on the general government section of the CIP?
Okay. Bueller? No? Okay, we're good.
All right, moving to parks and ballpark. About 18 projects make up the parks and ballpark CIP. 6 of them are related to like lighting conversion and replacement. So again, just keeping up with assets. There's some right-of-way projects out there as well. So again, just a lot of maintaining what we currently have within this. So about 80% of the total dollars of the 5-year CIP come from 3 projects, and we'll go over those here in just a second. So Bullard Wash, Ballpark to McDowell Road improvements. So this is the Bullard Wash right outside here. Going to extend that down to the ballpark, which is a really fun project I think everybody's excited about. Be using a GO bond authorization, and anything above and beyond that, we will use general fund money. But that'll allow, everybody makes fun of me rollerblading. Nobody rollerblades anymore apparently, but you can rollerblade up and down, that they'll have a sidewalk there and ride your bike and walk and all that. So I think it'll be a great addition to the city. Goodyear Rec Campus, Phase 2. So this will complete the remaining 48 acres of the Goodyear Rec Campus, creating Goodyear's first regional park. Again, this is not a new project. The total project budget is around $67 million. Schedule completion for 2030. The scope is kind of TBD, but they're working on designing exactly what's going to go out there. I know Parks is very involved with getting citizen feedback and input to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our citizens. This is a strategic plan project that's on target to be hit with the construction dates.
Good.
When can we expect to see the proposal, the design?
Good afternoon, everyone. David Seid, Deputy Parks and Recreation Director. Mayor, Councilmember Kano, we will be kicking off formal design in FY26. We have some basic concepts that are based on our recently completed master plan, so we kind of have an idea of already what our needs are and what those will be. We've done some preliminary schematics with relationships and kind of layouts, but you really won't see the formal design until we complete the design process, which will kick off FY26 if approved.
So sometime next fiscal year, we'll get to see it?
Absolutely. It's about a 12-month to possibly 16-month design process. We just want to make sure that remaining 46 acres is properly developed. So as soon as we get those concepts and those designs, we will definitely share those, bring those forward for council review and input, and just make sure that we have an outstanding phase 2 to our first regional park.
Great, thank you.
Also, while you're there, you know, because of the major turnout of a lot of our events there, I wish you would really consider a 2-level garage on that site. And I'll tell you why. Because if you don't, you're going to have more parking problems as you expand, you know, your phase 2. At least with the two levels, so it kind of fits in with the neighborhood. Nothing higher than that, too, because you got a lot of 2 stories around there. Will take less of a footprint to put more cars on it, you know, and trying that. So just a thought, because if you don't, you're gonna have bigger problems, because during Juneteenth and some of the others, they're parking across the street, and always worry about people getting hit trying to cross that street, and parking over at the church lot, because we have such great turnout, and you've been such a great success with our rec program. We got so many people coming that unfortunately it creates a parking problem. So think about that when you do that, to see if you can fit that in somewhere to try to alleviate maybe some of that land there that eats up some of it with parking spaces. So just give it a thought.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
The next project is our Goodyear Community Park improvements. So kind of within the scope of this is relocating the dog park, updating our shade structures, turf, fixing concrete, general improvements to just landscaping, removing some hills to make the space more usable, upgrading it, lighting to be LED. It's just kind of touching a lot of different aspects of that park to make it more user-friendly for everybody. $9.9 million, the majority of those dollars are in fiscal year 26. General fund money being used. The ballpark liner space remodel, so $1.1 million. This one, I believe, when we were talking in our one-on-ones, the assumption was we were talking like it was in 26. The dollars are actually currently sitting in 27. So this is another one of those that will be a tentative adjustment that you will see, moving the dollars from 27 to 26. This project is very much in flux. We've got some interest in some of those spaces, so we don't want to improve one and then just to know somebody's going to come in and rent it out anyway, and then we got to just tear it right back up. Between parks and economic development, they're working closely to make sure that we improve the right spaces in the right order to optimize the amount of resources we use towards that. There will be a slight addition to the dollar amount in the tentative budget, currently because those spaces are being used for a lot of ballpark storage, so we need a temporary storage space for those. Again, it's a lot of moving pieces, but we're making sure that we're working together to improve the correct liners that that makes sense to do so at this point in time. So, does anybody have any questions on anything parks or ballpark related? All right. Our last CIP grouping is public safety related. So there's 7 projects in our public safety CIP, about $95 million. The majority relate to fire stations, fire station remodels, and a police substation addition, which we'll talk about. So the first project, municipal operation complex, so fire resource management. The total project budget is $34.5 million. It's going to utilize some of our GO bond funding as well as general fund money. It's a strategic plan project, estimated completion in fiscal year 28.
Can we ask where it's located?
Yeah. Go ahead, Wally.
Will you tell me where it's located?
So this will be part of Summit and facilities are going to present to you later in the fall around the MOC. The idea right now is this could be part of that complex potentially. But right now it's being stored. This is Fire Station 181 where they currently have, but they're out of storage space, thus the need for the new location. So they're still working on finalizing exactly where that will end up being.
So we don't know exactly where it's gonna go yet?
We don't know exactly
But
yet.
it'll be in Goodyear up here?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The next project, Fire Station 184 remodel. This Fire Station 184 is at Yuma and Saraville. This is just remodeling that facility to bring it up to the same standards, exactly what we've done with Fire Station 182 and Fire Station 183 recently. So all of our fire stations have the same levels of safety within them. And then our new fire stations, as we bring them online, will have those same standards, so everything is consistent. Project scheduled completion is fiscal year 27, and this is general fund money being used to fund this project.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I've got a question on Fire Station 187 in Mobile. So are we, with the $42,000 that you're allocating for fiscal year 2026, is that we're buying the land that is currently being used by the fire station?
So I will let Chief speak to that. I believe that's a component of it, but we'll let him let you know for sure.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Paul Louise. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Paul Louise, Fire Chief. Yes, Vice Mayor Campbell, as you had asked that question, that is part of the total project, but the $42,000 was designated for the land.
And how much land will we be buying for $42,000?
So we're still working with the landowner right now, so we're finalizing all of the legal components to the land. So I can't
What does
speak
that
out of
mean,
turn
Paul?
yet. So, you know, certainly when you purchase land, all of the northwest, southeast components of the property and how it's identified in the county recorded maps.
Okay.
So just to make sure that everything's true, there's nothing that, all our due diligence is done on that piece of property and nothing's left out. So I think once we get through all those legal components, I'd be able to report back on the exact
Okay, 'cause
acreage.
It's not a very big acre, it's not very large, I know that, so.
Correct.
And we're really limited with what we can do and how we can do it, so.
Correct.
Are you proposing doing the building like we're doing up here? We can't do that down there.
No.
Because we don't have sewer, we don't have water, you're gonna have to have a septic tank.
Yep,
And all
yeah.
of that, so I know you wanna have it designed and this, that, and the other, and I'm for all of this. I mean, what they're living in is not what I would wanna live in.
Right.
But how long does a fireman actually stay in that building per shift? Is it 24 hours or 36?
48.
2
Yep,
days?
2 days, yep. 2 days on, 4 off.
Okay.
Is their schedule.
And we have 4 folks down there.
Yeah, we do, yes.
Okay, well, I went through Cavco again, and they're building beautiful duplexes that are $1,095 each, that they can put together for one, that would be a lot cheaper than $3,500,000.
Yeah, we're also looking at some other, like steel buildings.
Yeah.
As well as an option. So we're working with our project manager on that piece and looking at all of our options.
Okay, good, yeah,
Yes.
because since Cavco is such a great partner with our city, and they're located here, they do build mobile homes.
Yep.
If you don't know what I'm talking about.
So we're going into the design phase, and so this will be
Yeah.
the part where we'll start to explore other partners for the
Because
actual
basically, all
construction.
we need are 4 bedrooms or bunk beds in them, a kitchen, a workout room, and a place to watch TV. Is that about it?
Well, and also an area for them to clean their equipment, have a decon area, some
Well, can that be
showers, et cetera.
separate, though?
Yeah, so the concept of our current stations up north here would carry over, but the actual physical design of the building would be more of along the lines of a modular building or along the lines of a steel building.
Yeah, I'd just like to keep the containment separate from where the
Yes.
living quarters are, regardless.
Me as
And
well.
the steel building sounds interesting, but it sounds awfully hot to me to be in the desert where they will be, but, I mean, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
You know, so, you think we'll have this done by 27 or 30?
I believe right now the plan is for summer of '29,
27.
but that is, we're including every single component of what would go into, including
Yeah.
permits and.
Sure.
We're hoping that actually talking to the project manager this afternoon, we're hoping to get that done much earlier than that piece.
Okay, so since that project is entirely, totally in Goodyear, we're not dealing with Pinell County whatsoever,
No.
period.
No.
So we'll call the shots, we'll do the permitting, we'll get it built or whatever, and we've got to find someone that will go out there to build.
Yeah, that's
You know,
correct.
that's always a challenge.
Yes.
But
Yep.
hopefully we can get the fire folks something a little more decent to live in.
Yes, ma'am.
We're just, you know, it is what it is, and they knew what it was when it happened, and it just is what it is.
Yes.
And we just have to try to make it a little bit better.
Correct.
So thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question?
Once Fire Station 184 is remodeled, does that complete the remodeling projects of our, no, there's still more?
Yeah, so after that, 184 in 2026 will turn 20 years old, so that's typical time frame for us. And then 185 will turn 20 in 2028. So we'll have another one after that. But then at that point, we'll be caught up for a while.
Go ahead, Vicki.
Paul, they're all decon then at that point, right?
Yeah, so we are incorporating the decon philosophy and theory into all the remodels as well.
So by the end, they'll be all decon.
Yes.
And have you heard anything more about the decon unit? Where does that
No,
stand?
have not received an update as of yet. The expectation that it would be sometime in 2027 would actually arrive here.
Still, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Paul.
Yes.
Fire Station 189. So this will be our newest fire station. We just completed Fire Station 188. We're using that as the prototype to build Fire Station 189. It'll be about 15,000 square feet, located at the northwest corner of Citrus and Indian School. It's a strategic plan project. Fiscal year 26 includes funding for design and purchase of long lead items, the apparatus that goes with that, and then construction is going to start in fiscal year 27.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Is this a newer location than originally proposed, or has this always been that way? I thought we were discussion with Glendale about being at somewhere, I thought, different.
No, it's always been, good afternoon, Mayor and Council, Paul Louisi, Fire Chief. It has always been at Indian School and Citrus. We've owned that property for quite some time.
Okay.
We've been talking with the developer about where it fronts, so whether on Indian School or actually on Citrus. So.
Okay, but it'll support that whole region up there, and that was the discussion before is.
Yeah.
Because we'll have to support a lot of Glendale, for example, but now they're.
Glendale, actually talking to their chief, they have property that they've purchased at Saraville and Northern, so just to the east of the new casino that's there.
Okay.
So that will complement that area really well as talking to the Buckeye Fire Chief. They have purchased land and have money allocated for a station that is just west of Verrado High School. So it will make up a really nice triangle there for coverage in that area, but Glendale will have a station in that area, so they'll be covering their own call volume.
Good, thank you. Yeah, just make sure Goodyear's not bearing the burden for that entire part of the valley there, so.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Wally.
Chief, I have a question. I had a conversation yesterday with two of our residents about fire trucks. They said that a conglomerate bought whoever makes fire trucks now, and they're the only ones we can get one, and there's like a 2 or 3 or 4 year delay to get the trucks. Is that true?
Yeah, so.
Did they buy Pierce?
No.
Oh,
No.
Pierce is still separate?
Yep, Pierce
Okay,
is
good.
still separate. We started to see these delays during COVID, long lead times on getting product for the engines. So right now, for an ambulance, it's 2 years. For an engine, it's about 3 years. For a ladder or any other specialty item, like our decon unit, up to 4 years.
And have we placed any orders for ambulances or decons or whatever? What have we got on order? It's almost like Amazon. What have we ordered?
Let me check my
Okay,
my
check
bucket.
it.
So right now we just picked up 2 more ambulances. We're going to be putting another 2 on. So with the ambulances we can get in line, which is really nice. It doesn't cost the city anything to get in line. We don't have to pay for them until they come out. We do have the decon that's on order, and then we have engines on order right now. I think we have 3 that are currently in the process of being constructed.
Okay.
But we just picked 3 up from Pierce about a month ago. Those are going into service, so we're really excited about getting those, and always appreciate the support from council.
Wonderful. Now, do we have engines now for all of our stations?
Yes.
And then
Plus
the new
reserves.
ones coming
Yes.
on board, we're okay with that?
Yeah, and plus reserves as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And my last question is, do we still, we don't need a ladder truck because we don't have anything really too tall except here.
Well, we do need a ladder truck, and yes, but our ladder truck is only a few years old now.
It's still, we don't need to replace that.
No.
Okay,
no.
well, that's great. Okay. Well, we're glad to know we've got things on order. Thank you very much. Oh, do you know the name of the company that bought all this?
I don't remember the
Are they like
the
an investment
major-
company?
Yes,
Oh,
they're
man.
they're a private equity company.
Oh,
Yeah,
so they're going to charge what they want to charge.
using a lot of cash.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Chief.
3 to 5 years, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Brandon?
Are we staying with the same brand for
Yes.
all the, okay, good.
Yep.
Good, that really helps too.
It does, especially with fleet, with our mechanics, working very closely with them. They're involved in all of our designs. They're involved in all the pre-construction. And during the build, they'll go out with us to inspect, just to have that expert set of eyes with us out there. And certainly having one model to work on, it makes it a lot easier for training for them.
But thank you for the great job y'all are doing. We appreciate it. You're really on top of all of it, so thank you so very much.
Thank you. Go on.
Another project in public safety is our police substation, which will be attached to Fire Station 188. About $17.8 million. It'll include supervision offices, touchdown stations for report writing, arrest processing center, fingerprinting. Basically just another place where our police can go, not having to go to the main location, to cut down on time, cut down on an enhanced proactive time. Design scheduled for fiscal year 28, construction fiscal year 29 with completion around fiscal year 30. Funded partially by impact fees for growth, and the remaining will be used general fund money.
I'm really excited to see the substations come. That was one recommendation that came out of the Public Safety Committee that I was on in 2004. And it was also the ambulances. We made that recommendation, and we made the recommendation for a separate police station. So it's really wonderful to see it finally coming to fruition for this city, and we need it desperately. And that saves a lot of time because we're so spread out now, the officers don't have time to go back and forth. And I know they use some of the fire stations, but they don't use all of them to do the reports. And schools too, yeah. So thank you very much.
The real-time crime center, so this is the CIP portion of the request. We've already talked about the supplemental portion, so this is the one-time build out of everything. 4 FTEs again, 3 of them will be PD staff, 1 will be IT. Any questions on anything public safety related?
I think you got most of them as you were going through them. Anything else? Is this it?
That is the end of the presentation.
So the good news is we don't need that second meeting? Is that what I hear, City Manager?
Whispering in my ear here. We had some conversations over the break about the ice rink, and we're going to come back with some ideas on how we might work through that if we don't get sponsorships. So we can either go back at the tentative budget and go back to the spray-on PAM ice rink. I don't know what else to, synthetic ice rink, if we don't get sponsorships, or we could put the money in contingency and continue to look for sponsorships after the tentative, so.
You know, to create, not having an extra one, when you do your tentative, you know, remember, that's always sets the top. So you can keep that money in there, and when it comes time to come back to city council, if you don't have the sponsorships, you just don't spend the money.
And that's
So
what
that may be the cleanest way to do it.
That's what I've expressed, that we keep it at the ice rink level, but if we can't find a sponsorship, I will recommend going to the synthetic.
Yeah, but does that work with everybody? All right, so with that being said, then, we don't need next Monday.
No, we do not, and I just want to thank everyone. This was 3 hours, and we're done, and your comments are very valuable. Appreciate all your work and thoughts on this, and we will continue to move forward to the tentative.
Well, want to thank staff for everything they put in there. I mean, because you do all the hard work and put all this stuff together. So I want to thank the Public Budget Office and all your staff, City Manager. If anybody else wants to add in some comments, go ahead.
Thank you. When will we go over the strategic plan again?
This fall. We target around October.
Okay. Yeah, they sort of go hand in hand, but they're in opposite times of the year, but that's okay. As I look through the strategic plan, I mean, I've seen how many things we've done already, and it's really very satisfying to see how much we're getting accomplished. I guess shown something that's of particular interest, looking at our payroll HRIS systems and things, how we interact. I know that fire, as part of their MOU, has a very intentional strategic plan to ensure that their payroll gets converted correctly as a result of the MOU. Police does not. And I'm guess asking if there's any resources the city can allocate to ensure that they also have a correct transition as well.
I don't want to misspeak for the chief behind me. I think the fire portion is a temporary assignment.
For 30 days, yes.
For 30 days.
But
So
can
we
the city
look- we can-
provide something to PD to make sure that their transition is also successful?
That's what I was going to say. We can also look at that.
All right, and
For a
discuss
temporary-
this further.
Yeah, a
All right,
temporary
thank
one.
you.
Brandon? No, not you, anything. No, Trey.
All right. Somewhat on that similar vein, No, with payroll, we had discussed earlier, very early in the meeting, when it came to personnel. I know there was a comment made by Councilmember Hampton as when it came to the non-represented employees. Are we going to be able to discuss that at some point, as far as, you know, a council or a work
This would
session,
be-
or should we
this would be
have
our
that
time.
out? This would be the time now. I don't know if I can then kick it for Councilmember Hampton to ask, but I guess my initial question on that would be, I know there's a step increase when it comes to fire and PD, but the optics of giving fire a 3% market adjustment and every other employee in the city a 5% market adjustment, those optics, they struggle to meet the smell test. So I don't know if there's, if we can expand on, just have that conversation. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about that.
Sure.
If now is the time.
Now would be the time, because when we come back with tentative, it's
And,
done.
and then also, you know, we're all here. I don't know if any of my colleagues have thoughts on that.
And Councilmember Terry, I need to make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that the 5% market for non-sworn should be 3%, or the 3% in the MOUs have already been adopted and so I need.
Correct. So we've done the MOU for police and fire. We have approved those as a council. In those MOUs, we have obviously salary, you know, adjustments, things like that. The market adjustment for having the market adjustment for non-sworn, you know, non-represented employees, almost twice as much as we did for fire. Again, I know there are step increases, but to me, that seemed a little high for the non-sworn, non-represented employees. If just from the aspect, hey, we're giving fire a market adjustment of 3%, basically a 3% raise there, yet we're giving non-sworn, non-represented employees a 5%. Like, how does that circle get squared?
Sure.
Well,
And
you, hold on. You got to first keep in mind that the non-sworn have no steps. What they get is it.
Correct.
Okay? So the others get a 5 plus 3, so they're getting 8, not 3. Where the non-sworn can only get 5 because there are no steps. You know, and in PD, they got the 10 because they're just kind of come up where the others are. So it's not just 3 and 5, it's 5 and 8 in reality.
Then when it comes to those steps, does that affect every single employee, or if they stay the same, do they not meet the threshold for those steps? Like, is it?
If there is a room within the pay range and there's a step, they move that step automatically. So then also part of, if they're topped out, there's one-time payments that they get to equal that.
Okay, I just wanted to have that conversation. I don't know if any of my colleagues had
Can
any
I-
thoughts, but other than that, that's
Can I
just.
provide some background
Well,
information?
Let Vicki say what she's got, and then we'll go to the city manager.
So basically, what you're saying, Wynette, if I'm following, is police and fire are up here. We did put them ahead of everybody, and the employees, non-sworn are here, basically, right? We talked about police and fire being more because they put their lives on the line every day. So we talked about that. So we are giving them more than we're taking the rest of us because of their jobs, correct?
Well, what we do is we base it on market. We'll go out and look at the market and compare police and fire, we compare markets, and even on the non-sworn, we'll compare markets and what others are getting. So our market right now for the non-sworn, after looking at the West Valley cities, is running anywhere about 5 to 6%. The last 2 years, the non-sworn have received a 7.5% each year. So this isn't as much as the two prior years, because we're seeing a slowing down of the market.
I remember all that. Yeah, so it's 5 for them, but it's going to be actually 8 for our first responders.
Well, 8 for fire and then 15 for police.
Okay, that's good. I'm good.
Did that answer your question, Trey?
It did. I just wanted to make sure we were, factoring in the market adjustments. Again, when the slide was up and, when Councilmember Hampton made a comment about it, it sounded like we were going to discuss it a little bit later, and it just never came. So I wanted to
Thank you.
make sure it was discussed on the 5% for the non-represented, non-sworn, because we've had those discussions when it comes to police and fire. We acted on those at our last council meeting. I just don't recall, at least in my time here, a conversation on the other one. So I wanted
Thank you.
to
And
at
that's-
least provoke
There
it
hasn't
slightly and see what happened.
Right, thank you for that, and generally, it's the tentative budget. If we bring it up and you have concerns, we can address, or it's not the tentative, I'm sorry, this work session. We can address them at this time.
Brandon has got something.
Yeah, I don't feel like it has been really discussed that well. Is there justification on why it's 5% versus 4% versus 3 versus 7?
Again, it goes back to the market, and talking to my other West Valley city managers, we take all of that into consideration. Some of them do market and merit for a combined 5%. Some, it's a variety of different methods, but 5%, 5 to 6%, some are going even a little higher than that, but that's not the majority. We look at the market, and like I said, last 2 years, they've received 7.5%.
Which is huge.
So this is this is not as much as what they've gotten in the last 2 years. And I can't say in my evaluation, but we were already looking at 5% at that time in December for employees, non-sworn.
Yeah, because I think we gave you
Less. Because I did not want to get-
anticipation that we were gonna give potentially staff less because of how tight the budget was gonna be this year.
My ask was that I get less than what the employees got. And that's why I asked for what I got, and that, knowing that the employees would hopefully receive more than what I got.
And is there any other alternatives? I mean, I know like fire wanted more company match, for example. I mean, if we did like a 4 and a 1% match or addition match or other alternatives or things like that. I just feel like it was just one option, so.
We would have to reopen the MOUs in order to do anything.
Not for them, for unsworn.
Oh, for us? That's something we can look at next year, but right now, we are I am recommending the 5% market increase for a non-sworn.
And you gotta keep in mind too, they got rid of the steps with the employees many years ago, so what they get for a market is it. There is no steps for them whatsoever, so
Yeah, which is
whatever you
normal.
set for the market, that's all they get. Where public safety has steps, both fire and police have steps.
Yeah.
But anymore, there's just a range for our non-sworn employees, that's it. Go ahead.
And then I just have a finance question related to that. When just little brief numbers doing here, the fiscal impact overall for 5%, because we've kind of had this out a little bit when it came to police, fire, the MOUs. That's my understanding, we're talking maybe 2 million out in the general fund to cover this. Again, rough numbers, so I don't know if I'm accurate or if I'm way off.
I'm pulling it up right now. I believe it's in over $3 million.
3 million?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can confirm as soon as my Excel loads. So.
Well, I wanted to wait until everybody closed all their computers, start packing things up, and start asking those questions.
That's good.
3.4 is what it came out to.
No, I appreciate that. That's, I think, from the, macro level view, something we needed to know.
So if I can add a little bit additional context to that as well, and Winnette is spot on with regards to, we engage other cities to understand where we're market and aligning it with market. A consideration that we find ourselves is if we don't respond to that, we will next year find ourselves being behind the market. And then we get into this difficulty of playing catch up. And it impacts everything from retention and turnover. So it does have a larger impact if we don't keep that in mind. And so while yes, are there alternatives we could look at? And through the negotiations, there was emphasis on where they were at with market and then leveraging, some impact on deferred comp and some of those alternatives that came through the negotiations. But with the non-represented staff, this does align closely with market, and to Annette's point, it, I think, is a good spot for us, or else we're going to be coming back next year and finding that we're behind market.
All right, Brandon and Trey, go ahead. Brandon.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just felt like it wasn't really brought to us, I guess. I don't know. I'm compared to the private sector, and 5%, 7% raises are not normal outside of government. So just want to make sure that I want to retain our employees, but also make sure that we're not doing 10%, and that our citizens see that we're spending our money wisely to still retain the best employees, but not where it's an outlier. So I understand that it will help with being in parity with the rest of the cities. That helps me get there. It just seems like a lot. So, all right, thank you.
Trey?
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, agree with what Brandon said. I appreciate being able to have the discussion here. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the increases that we were giving to police and fire weren't just watered in a general all employees getting this as well, despite what it could look like if somebody just reads the piece of paper. But yeah, making sure that we're competitive in the market is important. So I'm fine with, despite my somewhat pointed questions, I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that we have the discussion on it.
And I appreciate that. In the future, we can look at doing something differently when it comes around that recommended increase, if that's a desire of council.
I'd favor that.
Vicki?
To Justin's point, we have been behind, especially with police. So bringing it up to where we're at now is putting us in that fair market value, as we would say. So thank you to Wynette, thank you to Justin, thank you to the chiefs, thank you Jared, thank you everybody for doing this, because it did bring us up to where we needed to be, so that we have police that are out there taking care of us instead of worrying about if we have enough police on. So being behind is what we have been. Now we're where we need to be, and now we're going forward. And so thank you to all of you for what you've done in this budget, because I happen to think for first responders, we're finally where we need to be.
Well, great.
One last thing. In regards to the MOU, from what I hear, it was a really good process, and you certainly got a good outcome. I think it would be helpful for us maybe to have a more complete picture of what the agreements were, rather than just the highlights. So that way, this whole thing about how fire gets 30 days to figure out the payroll doesn't come up as a big surprise at the last minute before a budget meeting. Thank you.
We all good? Great discussion. Now, we save ourselves one meeting next week. We're good. Meeting over.